recording.
Well, welcome everyone to the Digital C podcast, first ever Game of the Years. Game of the Years. I don't like this intro. I'm so good at just blabbering on about things until I actually have to start something. Welcome everybody to the first annual Digital C podcast Game of the Year episode, where Tanner and I are going to talk about what we think was Game of the Year this year, alongside a top 10 list. 2025, I really did not expect the year 2025 to deliver what felt like sneaker hit after sneaker hit. A lot of times you start the year and you go, okay, it's probably going to be this game, it's probably going to be that game. Usually something in the AAA verse that is going to reign supreme, whether it's Jeff Keighley saying what's game of the year, or one of your other favorite outlets, or maybe even us. But here we are, and I'm super excited. This was a very good year, unexpectedly good year for games, for me at least. What a treat of a year it ended up being.
Yeah. Yeah, this was my best gaming year I think I've maybe ever had. As in terms of games completed, games played.
I would argue in a way, it was one of the best years of gaming for me, just because I could live so vicariously through you. I can't remember a year
Yeah.
where you're like, dude, you gotta play this one. You gotta play this one. You gotta play this one. And I was like, oh, which was awesome to have a little bit of a role reversal there.
Yeah. Yeah, usually it's almost always you pushing me through games or pushing me to play new games. And this year it was definitely the opposite, where I was trying to push you to play new games. And you and I have different tastes, and we'll go down different avenues and stuff. But especially now that we're recording podcasts regularly, it's more important that we play kind of games in sync, or if we play a game that we think is worth talking about, we have to kind of push the other one into playing it. And this year was definitely, most of that pressure was coming from me.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, I do too. It was really fun.
This was the year where, and if you've listened to some of our previous episodes this year, you're probably sick and tired of me bragging about this or hearing about this or what have you. But this year was the year that I had dreamt of for a very long time as a long-term gamer, as somebody who enjoys PCs and building PCs and technology in general. This year, we both were able to get PlayStation Pros, Switch 2s, and kind of complete our dream builds in one way or another. And it is, it's just awesome. And I know it just sounds like a big brag, like, oh, look at us, but it has been a long time coming. And we've worked quite hard,
Absolutely.
and sacrificed quite a few things along the way to allow us to do what we do. And it was just a special year. It really did feel like we worked hard and we got into our mid-30s and actually had some expendable income. We got through the pandemic, right? I think everyone probably took a financial hit in the early 2020s, and we're kind of through that, I hope. And it was a treat for us. So great year.
It definitely is. It definitely was. And not only that, but some great games came out this year. And some great games I got around to that didn't come out this year, that came out in previous years. That, like you said, it's a combination of just having the time and also the fact that you and I were saving a lot of games for the proper hardware. And finally we have it. And we got to go back and play some of those games that we had on our backlog, that we were saving up for, to be able to run on ultra settings, or that we just weren't going to be able to run at an acceptable frame rate with our previous hardware. And man, it's been so much fun. So let's start digging into this here. So you and I are going to go through our top 10 list of the year. Is that correct? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Top 10 list, games that came out in the year of 2025. I suppose we'll count down starting with 10 all the way down to 1, which will both be our personal game of the years. And we'll talk about other games that we played that might not be on these lists, or games that we really, really loved and enjoyed that were games that came out years prior, backlog games and so on. And yeah, kind of take a look forward at what 2026 might have on offer.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my list of games that I played this year, and I have played 20 games exactly this year. Actually, oops, I just forgot one. 21 games exactly.
Dang. Boy's been busy.
Yes, I have. I've only beat 13 and only played 10 that actually came out this year. So my top 10 list was easy because I only had 10 games to put on it. So,
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with mine for when it came to games that came out in 2025. I had a few others that I was able to complete. Played quite a few games this year that I never got around to finishing. Actually, not too many. I pretty much finished all of them. I didn't get to 20 or even 13. But yeah,
what was your
I
total games
digress.
played this year?
You know what? I only cataloged games in which I completed. I'd have to go through my activity of games that I played but did not complete to try and figure that out.
You know what?
Let's see.
Did Night Rain come out in 2024 or is that 2025?
Night Rain was this year, I believe.
Shoot, I gotta adjust my list then.
I know. I might I might have to do the same. Let's see.
Oh no.
Oh, it's the reason why I don't have it on here is because technically, despite putting nearly 100 hours into Night Rain, we still have not technically beat the base game in Night Rain, so I do not have it.
Should we leave it off?
I think we have I mean, we got 3 bosses left in the base game that I'm aware
Yeah.
of. I would say we've seen nearly what all what the game has to offer. I know the DLC came out recently here.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it would be fair to put that in the list.
Well, or should we do an honorable mention of it right now? I mean, where do exclusively multiplayer games fit on the list, I guess? I guess it's
know.
personal.
Yeah, it's always hard for me to put a co-op or multiplayer game in a top 10 game of the year list. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. I guess it's relies on so many external factors to
Mm-hmm.
be considered.
Well, let's leave it off the list for now, but let's also just talk about it really quick for a second. For me, Night Rain is the most fun co-op game by far that we've played this year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the most fun co-op games I can remember playing in recent memory. I know that it was a bit of a grindy, kind of like what the hell is this all about start for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But man, we keep coming back to it, and it seems like the more we play it, the more fun we have with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It took me a long time to warm up to this game. In part was technical issues I was having on my end, which have cleared up recently. And I'm just not a huge fan of battle royale style games, and this certainly borrows a lot from the design standpoint of battle royale. I know it's not by any means battle royale, but it certainly borrows a ton from the genre. And
Mm-hmm.
it took me a while to warm up to it, but now that we're 80 or 90 hours or whatever it is into Night Rain this year, and we nearly completed the base game, I really do love the game. It took me a while, but I do enjoy Night Rain.
You, me, and Luna spent a lot of time gaming this last weekend, and we played. That was definitely our main game that we were playing over the weekend, and it's not one of those games that I could necessarily binge for 4 days straight with my friends and never get tired of it. I definitely would want some sort of breakup between sessions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a game that is consistent that you can come back to. It has a lot of replayability. It has let me revise that. It has a lot of replayability to a point. I think that once we beat all the bosses, there won't be a ton of reason to come back to it outside of occasionally, unless they keep on adding bosses and the DLC is great. Right now, the DLC is sitting at a mostly negative, I think, on Steam,
Mm-hmm.
and I think some of that is due to the map design. But we won't know until we get in there and see for ourselves. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did a gorilla chest pound on the last victory that we had on that one boss when we were all gaming together over the weekend. And I just don't do that very often, whether it's
Yeah.
me gaming in private on a single player game or multiplayer. So
Yeah.
it's certainly it certainly is one of those FromSoft experiences that just makes you feel really good when you succeed. And
Yep.
especially in the hand-holding nature of modern video games, that's kind of a hard thing to obtain, to genuinely feel like you beat something that was fair and maybe difficult but fair, and you beat it, and you did it, and you did it with a collective this time. And it's
Yeah.
certainly a team effort. I think you and I and Luna all agreed that this has got to be a tough game for singles. A bunch of people online pairing up with randoms.
Yeah.
You need about 40 minutes or so to complete a single round. It takes a lot of teamwork, a lot of collaboration, and also a lot of people just being on point and doing their jobs and not being bad, for better or less words. So
Yeah.
it's a tough sell for people just who want to hop online and hopefully collaborate with some other people real quick. I would imagine. I haven't even tried, but I'm certainly thankful for the homies for this one.
Yep, definitely. And I've played a couple rounds solo, and it is fun too, but it's not nearly as fun. It's just the game is meant to be played with people. Obviously, it was designed for that. So
Yeah. Some of the things that it was not designed for still is just kind of basic quality of life stuff from FromSoft. This is, to my knowledge, one of their first proper multiplayer focused games. There might be another game that they've created that I'm
all the
unaware
Souls
of.
games have multiplayer elements, right? There's the
Right.
PvP in all the Souls games. Plus, there's
Yeah.
constantly like the messaging back and forth. But yeah, this is their first truly
Yeah. Exactly.
multiplayer game, and I,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to believe that the PvP online elements would have made Night Rain easier to make than if they were to have never tried to dip into multiplayer at all.
Absolutely. I agree. But I know we've commented on it a few times. Some of the things that we wish we saw from this game this year was private matchmaking or private parties. It's kind of a bummer when you have a bad beginning to a run and you're with a bunch of friends and you just want to quit out and start over, but you're penalized for it. And there's
Yeah,
just keeping the party together in general. Like, you shouldn't have to get in and out of parties over and over again every time you want to reset. I don't know why there wasn't a private matchmaking selection. So that was one of my big gripes for the game. But other than that, it was a pretty solid outing, and it didn't have a ton of issues at launch, which I was surprised about when it came to like server issues and stuff. So
yeah, yeah. And luckily they've built a foundation with this game that is really, really easy to build on because all they have to do is keep on adding new bosses, which they're all just recycled bosses anyways, right? Just probably slightly tweaked as far as the AI goes. And, all they have to do is add more maps, and everyone would be super happy with that. I certainly would be. So hopefully we keep getting DLCs, we keep getting more bosses and more maps and more variety, because that's the one thing the game is severely lacking is a variety. Now, that's not to say there's none, because we definitely have been seeing it as we continue beating the bosses. I think we're on the second to last boss right now in the main game, and we see different what is it called, turning events, something like that, where you get different biomes that spawn on the map, which is all sort of a take on Limgrave in a different dimension. And of course, Limgrave is from Elden Ring proper. And if we could just keep on, like, Elden Ring has those maps already there, and all those assets are just sitting there in the vault. Just pull out different areas of Elden Ring, give it the Night Rain spin, give us more bosses, put different spawn points. I know that all takes a lot of balance and polish, and I'm sure it's a lot of work for the team. But this game came out clearly as a test from FromSoft. Miyazaki was not part of it. He said he gave the reins to some, I don't want to say lower level devs, but definitely lower on the superiority ranks developers that had an idea. He let them run with it. And it was clearly a test of, it was clearly like a proof of product. And it has proven to be very successful. And I hope that they just build on that foundation, because right now there's a lot of great and there's a lot of things that could be a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. I really wanted another cookie cutter cutout of the Elden Ring map in a different location. The map is so dang big, and it does feel like we kind of got a vertical slice. And again, like you said before, it's got to be tough to make this balanced, and wherever the circle is encroaching in on, like, that's got to be a viable area to play. And yeah, it's definitely, they took the main map and modified it in ways that would work for this kind of game. And I'm sure it's a ton of work, but it would have been cool to see a completely different section of the Elden Ring map. If you had like 3 different maps you could kind of rotate through, I think that would really elevate a game like this. But I think with the cadence in which FromSoft is cranking out games the last couple years, like, they just got in there, they did it, it was successful, it sold a ton of copies for being a spin-off Elden Ring game, and now they're on to the next thing, which is Dustbloods, to come out in sometime 2026 on Switch 2. So
yeah, I have to believe that they're going to carve out a small development team to continue working on Night Rain, though, because it's not really a games as service model, which I really respect them for not doing. But I could see how they could turn it into that and just rake in cash. I have a feeling they have too much integrity as a studio to do that. But what I think that they could do, and like I said before, this is all they have to do is recycle assets. All this is in the vault. So if you could just set aside a development team of, a fraction, just cut off a fraction of the team, say you're the Night Rain team, have at it, and just start cranking away at weapons and maybe a couple new armors that you could work up towards, and some boss fights and some maps. You could continue selling DLCs and people would just buy them immediately. I know I will, even though there's a DLC sitting at mostly negative on Steam, and I'm for sure guaranteed to buy it anyways just to see for myself. So
Yeah, and this has kind of been this has been a FromSoft design spear point format, whatever word you want to insert there. FromSoft is really good at recycling content from their older games and putting it in their newest titles, and so they certainly should have no problem kind of recycling and reusing stuff as time goes on. They've proved to be quite good at it. And I know some Souls fans don't like that, and others are okay with it. It doesn't bother me too much. But there was a couple times, even playing Night Rain, where we're like, really, this boss again? By the time you move on to the next section of the game.
yeah.
But yeah, Night Rain. I don't think anyone had this on their bingo card as far as this ever coming out or being a thing. I think this was pretty surprising to a lot of people. Not surprising in the sense that it's a spin-off Elden Ring game of one of the most influential games of all time that came out in the last couple of years. And a Game of the Year title.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a ton of fun with this one. It was a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we get into our list?
Yes. Our top 10 Digital C podcast top 10 of 2025. You want to start us off on number 10?
Yes, I do. My number 10 is Ghost of Yotai.
Ooh. Well, how do you feel about this one? I've heard you talk about it a little bit. So give me more.
Yeah. If I would have remembered that we had Night Rain and we both could have put that on our top 10 list, I would have booted this one off easily.
Wait until you hear my number 10.
Oh, is it a game that I've also played?
Yes.
Ghost of Yotai was a very hard game for me to get through. Speaking of recycled assets, that's basically what this game is. It is Ghost of Tsushima with a way worse story. Some could argue better combat. I would argue worse. And I think that I might get a hard time about that from some people, but do you care about spoilers? Because I know you haven't played this game at all. Do you want me to keep it fairly spoiler free?
I don't care about spoilers, and I'm just
I'm gonna
entirely
keep
basing.
it okay.
Yeah, I'm just basing that off of the first Ghost of Tsushima's story, where by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, that was a good story, but if something in that world got spoiled for me, I wouldn't be really too upset because it's just kind of predictable and
Yeah.
by the
Well, I think we should keep all these, most of this discussion spoiler free for people who are just listening to this and they haven't played all the games that we're talking about, because they might click on the title. I'm not sure what we're going to call this episode, but they might click on the top games 2025 title and then randomly walk into a spoiler that they didn't want. So I'm not going to do that. What I will say is that it is a revenge story, and it is a very generic one at that. Do you think that's too much of a spoiler to put in the episode?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it is a very, very generic revenge story. The main character is pretty boring and is a bit of a Mary Sue. She's really good at a lot and gets good at almost everything really quickly. I mean, she goes through her trials and tribulations for sure. She has a reason for her revenge, absolutely. But it just, the story is so boring and generic that it was really hard for me to sink my teeth into it. And that's coming from Ghost of Tsushima, which already had a pretty generic and boring story to begin with. And I would say Ghost of Tsushima had a easily twice as better written story than Ghost of Yotai did. The game is very beautiful. The combat is an upgrade if you prefer different weapons. I prefer different, I almost said lightsaber stances because of how much you compare that game to a Star Wars game. I prefer different katana stances. This game, instead of having stances, has different weapons that you acquire throughout the game in order to overcome different enemy types. So if you're fighting somebody with a shield, you switch to your, I think it's a, I can't remember all the different types, but it's if you're fighting somebody with a shield, you have your dual katana style, and if you're fighting somebody with this, you get your spear out, and if you're fighting a heavy enemy, you get your big katana out. It's fun to switch to those weapons, but I typically kind of just prefer the katana. And there's customization for everything, and there's different outfits, but I just didn't care to engage with the world or the side quests because the story and the world just seemed so weirdly empty and bland. Even though it had the same framework as Ghost of Tsushima, it was a strange experience to play a copy of a game that I loved and have it be just kind of hollow. So that was my experience with Ghost of Yotai. I had to push myself to get through it, And I was sad by that because I love Ghost of Tsushima. In fact, I hold it up as a golden standard for what open world, unlock the map, action adventure games should be.
Yeah, and I felt like when we played the original Ghost, we really felt like Sucker Punch ate Ubisoft's lunch when it came to an open world collectathon checklist kind of game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to hear that, well, they swapped stances for weapons and changed protagonists and kind of had a similar one note story overall, I can certainly see the disappointment and the lack of just progress between sequels. I'm assuming the game is still beautiful and runs great and feels good to play. Is that are all those things still true or not so much in one
Absolutely.
way?
Absolutely. Those things are all true. And I know that Ghost of Yotai is technically a much prettier game than Ghost of Tsushima, but it didn't seem that way. There's something about the upgrades they've done to the engine that make it seem more photorealistic, which also makes it less immersive.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Because Ghost of
Yeah.
Tsushima was a highly stylized game that made it work. The more photorealism that the franchise becomes, I think the less immersed in that world I will be, because the whole point is to feel a bit fantastical, and Ghost of Tsushima really nailed that element. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
what those old Japanese films wanted you to think that those worlds were like. So that's kind of my take. I know the Digital Foundry has a lot of. Actually, should we never mention Digital Foundry on the Digital C podcast, or do you think it matters?
I love Digital Foundry,
Yeah.
and I think they do the Lord's work when it comes to video game tech. I don't mind it, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, as long as you don't mind it, if it's something
No,
that
I don't mind it.
yeah.
Do you think we should ever mention that we didn't steal our name from them?
We did not steal our name from them.
No, our name comes from a Thrice song, and that's a band that me and Ryan both really liked in high school and still continue to like to this day. Digital Foundry did a lot of a couple of videos that I watched about the technical marvel that is Ghost of Yotai, and I'm sure that they know what they're talking about. I just found it to be a less immersive and less stylized world. So, and it didn't help that I also just didn't like the game in general. So,
Right.
but if someone were to come up to me and say that Ghost of Yotai was one of the most beautiful games ever made, I would both agree and disagree with them, but I couldn't very well articulate why I disagree with them because the game is objectively beautiful. It just didn't resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely
Okay.
makes sense. And I think the original Ghost game came out on PlayStation hardware, and then I think the update came shortly after the game was launched, if I'm not mistaken, to allow PlayStation 5 to utilize this extra juice. And Nintendo's the masters of this, but there's something to be said about an artistic vision that has shoot, what word do I want to use here? You're limited by technology, right? The
Yeah.
artistic vision is limited by technology, and in that way comes like these kind of beautiful and creative ways to have assets be on the screen. And sometimes I feel like just because the hardware or the technology is there, developers and publishers just want to ramp things up. The more photorealistic things look, the better. Sometimes I think is the perspective, and I just don't think that's true. I think it's the art needs to come first, and if the hardware allows for it, then great.
Exactly. Breath of the Wild comes to mind, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Breath of the Wild is like a peak example of what can be squeezed out of absolute ancient hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. What is your number 10?
My number 10, and oh god, do I wish I would have subbed Night Rain in. Can I just say Night Rain was my number 10 and then we can just move on? Number 10 was Bloom and Rage, Lost Records. I had to put it on the list because it's a game that I played and completed this year. If you listen to our episode, you know how we feel. This one was not great, for better or less words. I've never seen a game be so technologically demanding that at the time, I think we had our 3080 Ti's in our rigs, and it absolutely brought our cards down to their knees in every way, shape, and form. And the game doesn't look bad by any means, but it does not look good enough to demand the compute power. I know Unreal 5 has been getting better with its updates when it comes to how demanding games are on these. I know the smaller the development team, the more difficult these things become when it comes to optimizing games on Unreal, when it comes to PC especially. But this is a game that did not do anything particularly well, and it certainly showed. And it really
Yeah.
stinks because you and I are both 90s kids. This game takes place in the 90s. This should have been an absolute grand slam home run for a lot of millennials like ourselves, and it just was not it. The story was a comedy in ways when it shouldn't have been. The characters acted like idiots, and not just because they were children, because all children act like idiots. It's a thing. But yeah, this is just one where the characters weren't likable. I didn't care for the music. The story was dumb. And this is coming from a long-term Life is Strange universe fan. And
Yeah.
this one stunk.
Did Double Exposure come out this year?
Double Exposure was last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
2024,
Sorry.
and then right after was Bloom and Rage.
Okay, I blacked out because I remembered that we have a Double Exposure episode posted as well as a Bloom and Rage episode, so we must have, yeah, right?
I believe so.
Check. I need to
I'm pretty
check
sure.
my own
I'm pretty
podcast
sure we
feed.
did.
We never posted our Double Exposure episode. We recorded it, but we have not posted that episode yet.
Okay,
That was before we were posting episodes. So that's
But-
in the vault.
in the vault. If anyone ever cares for retro content, where we're still figuring out mics and production and kind of getting the reins in our hands, we might release some retro stuff if anyone cares.
Email digitalcpodcast@gmail.com and ask us to release those episodes if you even care.
I know it sounded like I was
And it's-
waving my finger.
Yeah, if you even care.
It sounded incredibly sassy. I did not intend it that way.
That was really funny. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more about basically everything you said when it comes to Lost Records. I don't think it was the worst Life is Strange like game that I've ever played.
Correct. That
I
is
think
Double Exposure
that-
for sure.
I think that goes to True Colors. I think Double Exposure is better. True Colors is the most laughably bad Life is Strange game I've ever played, but I think you and I probably swap. I would say Lost Records is better than True Colors, and I have a feeling you would disagree with that and swap those two games. in your
Yeah, I mean it's
ranking.
a cool that's correct, but it's like a coin flip as far as how much I really care of which one's
Yeah,
which one takes the cake as worst Life is Strange universe game
yeah.
out there.
Yeah, they're both really bad, and I know that these are two studios trying to capture lightning and put it in a bottle twice, and I don't think either of them are going to succeed. One thing I'll disagree with you about the things you were saying there is, I think that Lost Records has pretty good music. I think that that's one thing that all these games kind of do well. Lost Records probably has the least good music out of all of them, but I thought it was still good. It was vibey. It was 90s. It was cool.
I think it's mostly because the music as a whole becomes forgettable to me because all I can think of is when they're making their like music video and it's just super cringe and bad, and like that's
You
all
know
I can
what?
think about.
I take it back. I 100% take it back. You're right. It's the worst music out of all the games.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God, I hate that song. I hate that song so much.
Do
and
you remember
reminded
the
me of it.
lyrics? Do you remember the
In
lyrics?
hell, you be doing well. What is it? What's it say after that? Something.
I would have to look up the lyrics. I'll
And
like,
you'll be under my spell. In hell. God, I hate that song.
if you want to hear us trash more on that game, we do have that episode released. If you want to hear just a real mean spirited episode of how much we dislike that game, that song that the girls create and sing it just erases any good music that was in the game for me. And I know that's not fair, but
No, you're right. 100% agree. Thank you for reminding me of that terrible song that now will be stuck in my head for the next 3 goddamn months.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Are we on number 9?
We are
No,
now
we're
to
on
number
number 10.
9.
Oh, okay, number 9. My number 9, I really wanted this game to be good. I really wanted to force you to buy this game so we could play it together.
Oh, I know what it's going to be.
Battlefield 6. I had some fun with it. I mean, I don't have any friends that play it except for Adam and a lot of his friends, and I guess our friends too, but they mostly play it together. They love multiplayer shooters. They're playing this game a lot, and they usually have a full squad. So I usually don't. Unfortunately, I'm the odd kid out, and I don't really get to be. I'm picked last for the dodgeball team, so I don't really get to be on their
Oh
team
no.
very much. But when he has set aside time to game with just me, and I've gotten in a squad with them, and we're a full squad, and we're running around, and we kind of give ourselves our own goal to, like, okay, we're gonna go try and flank objective alpha and hold that objective down. That's the most fun that I had in the game. Whereas when I'm just playing solo, it's a coin flip whether or not I'm going to have fun. And the fact that I haven't played it in months is a testament to its longevity. And I think that most of the player base feels that way. I think the last I saw, their player base shrunk by like 90% or something like that. Maybe it's not that big of a number, but I know it's a fairly big number for a big multiplayer Battlefield title. And a lot of people were hyped for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was hyping this game up, and it turned into, I mean, what is it? The Skyrim effect? They're just trying to appeal to everybody and make it good for nobody. Especially, I know that Battlefield is really setting its sights, pun unintended, on the Call of Duty player base and trying to get them over. And it just has this feeling of crazy esports, sprint in, slide, jump, shoot, was it not Titanfall? Apex Legends style gameplay that just doesn't suit me, and also isn't that fun unless you're like hyper good at it. I like the old school chaotic Battlefield. Everything's destructing around you. Everyone's screaming into your microphones. Everyone's playing their role. Battlefield experiences, and I haven't had that since Bad Company 2. Although I'm sure Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 had their time in the sun as well. So it's beautiful. There's some fun aspects to it. Overall, I don't recommend it, and I probably won't play it very much unless I get the itch for a multiplayer first-person shooter.
Did you ever play the Battle Royale free-to-play portion that came out a couple months or a month or whenever it was after launch? Did you ever play that?
I didn't, and a lot of it was because of the fact that all the players have been asking the developers for is larger maps, and then the one time we get it, it was the free-to-play map that we don't get to play on multiplayer. We only get to play it in the free-to-play style, so like we didn't have to buy the game. I could have just not ever bought Battlefield 6 and just played the Battle Royale, and I heard that's the best version of Battlefield 6. Another gripe I have is that there's no hardcore mode. That right there eliminates so many of my issues with Battlefield 6. If you could just have servers dedicated to hardcore mode. Now you can get into hardcore matches, but it's all the fan or the player made custom Battlefield matches, and a lot of those have other strange things like way higher ticket counts or other kind of weird little quirks to them, because the people who make the servers can choose all the settings. So you end up wanting to just play you want to just play no HUD, higher damage taken, higher damage given, and instead you get a crazy high ticket rate or no sniper rifles or whatever it is, and it just makes it. I just want to play hardcore mode. Just make a hardcore mode dedicated to the UI so that I can click it on my little checkbox and everyone can play that. It's baffling to me that they don't have that as a feature in a modern game.
Yeah, I heard no server browser as well, which is kind of a must, at least on PC.
Yeah, I believe you can only browse custom servers, I think.
Right, there's no server browser
like
for just normal matches that are curated by DICE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand the decision making there. I remember getting excited for this when they were talking about destruction. I love destruction. I love physics in games. I feel like we don't see enough of it. I feel like developers chase, they just chase fidelity constantly. You know, how can we make things more photorealistic and not more interactive? And when I saw some destruction in this one, I got excited. But I remember tuning in and taking a peek at some of the streamers playing it early and just seeing how narrow some of the maps were, and it felt like just like you said. It looked like DICE and EA are trying to take a slice of Activision and Call of Duty's pie. I know a lot of people are not happy with Call of Duty right now. I don't know why, because I'm not in those circles. But yeah, there was a lot of talk about how this was going to come in and scoop a chunk of the player base. And like you said before, you try and please everybody, you're not going to make a very good game.
Yeah. And I find myself wondering after my experience with Battlefield 6 if this genre is just dead, at least when it comes to big AAA releases. Right now, the first-person multiplayer shooter genre is being backpacked by sort of indie games or less well-known games like Squad or BattleBit Remastered was a really fun release that came out fairly recently that we had a lot of fun with
Mm-hmm.
and had that kind of voxel style, but also tons of destruction. I don't know if we're ever going to get a Bad Company 2 experience again. And I just keep chasing it and hoping for it. And I always just end up playing the Project Rome Battlefield Bad Company 2 servers. And there's about 3 servers still active, about 300 people on the weekends, 50 people on the weekdays. And you can get into some pretty fun matches, but it's usually just one map, repetitive, and kind of makes me sad. It's kind of like revisiting your old high school and realizing you've outgrown it and you just wish that you could have the good old days back, but they never will be. Even though I didn't really like my time in high school. It's an analogy.
Oh, too real. Too real.
Yeah. What do you have for number 9?
My number 9 is Pokemon ZA.
Oh, Pokemon ZA.
Pokemon ZA.
Did you finish it?
I still haven't finished it. I'm getting close. It's been a
Okay.
game that I've been chipping away at since I believe it came out in October. I did go to the midnight launch. Of course, the midnight launch is 9 p.m. West Coast time at my local GameStop because I like doing things like that. I got a cool little tote bag. This game
Was it busy? Was that midnight launch
Oh,
packed, or was it
Oh,
just-
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Any Pokemon midnight release is, at least in our area, is 200 or 300 people strong, which is a great turnout for our area. This is akin to, well, a while ago, well, a couple years ago now, Pokemon Arceus came out, and it was very much so this kind of prototype spin-off game. And it was, I would argue, it was the first serious spin-off game of its kind in quite some time from the Pokemon Company and Game Freak. And it was at this moment where I went, oh, like, you know what, we might actually finally get, some progress or something good out of, trying something new. And we did, and we saw it in, was it Violet and Sapphire? Or wait, Violet and, damn it. Was it Violet
Ruby?
and, no, Ruby. Oh, no. Yeah, sorry. Ruby and Sapphire are the old games. What was it? I'm losing my mind. Hold on.
Pearly Pearl?
No, the Violet and
Magenta.
Scarlet and Violet. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. So Pokemon Scarlet and Violet adopted a lot of the progress that was made in Pokemon Arceus, the spin-off game, which was very exciting. Pokemon ZA is what I would call the sequel to Pokemon Arceus. It's also a spin-off game. It's also doing something different, but you can tell that the progress that's being made here is absolutely going to be implemented in the next game. I believe it's called Wind and Waves. Apparently, they're making a new engine for the first time ever for Pokemon.
Oh,
they're not
wow.
cranking it out immediately like they always do. Like, it might actually be something that's half decent. I'm not holding my breath. It's Pokemon. They rush these things out as fast as they possibly can with small development teams.
Do you think it will be a Switch 2 exclusive?
I think it has to be.
You don't think they'll release it on old Switch?
All of the
That
console
sweet money.
Yeah, all the console manufacturers have been double dipping so hard lately between, the cross of generations. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it comes out on Switch because the install base of the Switch 1 is so massive. However,
Yeah.
with the Switch 2 being the fastest selling console ever as of right this moment, I don't see a reason to launch it on the Switch 1 if this game is still a year or two out, because that's how quickly Nintendo can sell Switch 2s. I mean, they've been flying off the shelves.
Is Game Freak owned by Nintendo right now?
Game Freak, I believe, is they make things besides Pokemon. They've made a couple other games besides Pokemon. They haven't been very good.
I'm trying
not
to
sure.
see in my head if Game Freak and Nintendo's kind of fates are aligned. Like,
Yeah.
is Game Freak incentivized to do a Switch 2 exclusive so that they can get more Switch 2 sales out of the Pokemon release?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I know the Pokemon situation is very complicated. You've got Monsters Inc., you've got Nintendo, and you've got Game Freak. And if I'm not, I'm pretty sure they all kind of partially own Pokemon as a whole. I think that's I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like this Neapolitan owned and created franchise.
Okay.
And with Pokemon ZA, we're finally getting something different again, just like we did back in Arceus. So it's still turn-based, but it's turn-based live action akin to like a CRPG or an MMO or whatever you're familiar with. So you tell your Pokemon to use XYZ moves, and then your Pokemon performs that move. The moves have ranges. So some attacks can only be done closer, others can be done far away. Sometimes the attack itself takes a certain amount of time to perform, and then there's cooldowns. The thing that's really interesting about ZA is the rock paper scissors element of Pokemon is still absolutely there, right? Fire is going to be good against grass and so on. But for the first time, you can have what I would call anime fights. And by anime fights, I mean Pokemon anime fights, where you have these circumstances where Pikachu goes against Onix, in the anime and beats Brock. The sprinklers, the water sprinklers turn on and Pikachu pulls out a win. Well, like everybody knows, if you try and catch a Pikachu in Viridian Forest and go fight Brock in the original games, you're going to get absolutely steamrolled, and it's a joke. It's like the rock paper scissors element doesn't allow for such a thing. But for the first time, where you can have a Pokemon that's absolutely weak to another, but because of its moveset, because of its cooldowns or what have you, this new style of battle allows Pokemon that aren't traditionally good to be good. It also allows typing disadvantages to still be successful. Whereas in the previous games, you didn't play rock paper scissors right. It's going to be a hard time. This is the first time we're seeing something that feels very much so in line with the anime. It's very exciting. It feels really good. It feels really fresh. I love it. I think it's great. I don't know if I entirely want this for the next mainline entry, but it's exciting and it's new. Mega Evolutions are back for ZA. I love Mega Evolutions. I think this is the best gimmick that the Pokemon series has ever had, and it's a lot of fun to collect the Mega Evolution stones. You finally find one that is connected to a Pokemon in your party. You give it to them, and then you can make them Mega Evolve and be extra powerful for a short while. It's awesome. Now, the downsides: this is probably one of the laziest Pokemon games made. The world is Paris, which is kind of we're going back to the XY generation, right? I believe that one was also in France.
Yeah, that was also France.
Yeah. And so the entire map is just a circle, which again, just like Paris's makeup when it comes to how the city was planned, but it is copy and paste. Everything looks the same. It's very, very boring to look at. The only reason why you're there is just for the new gameplay, the new combat. Still no voice acting, to no one's surprise. It's very weird now because now you're seeing like pretty detailed 3D models of characters move their mouth and say absolutely nothing. I know this is kind of a JRPG thing, but it's getting weirder and weirder, especially with how like the anime has been around for so long and it's been so popular.
Yeah.
Like, just copy the anime, paste it into the game, and let us have an awesome, like, anime Pokemon mainline game. I pray that that's where we're headed next. But again, don't hold your breath. It's Pokemon. It's Game Freak. They will find a way to probably disappoint you. So anyways, I've rambled enough on this one. That is my number 9 game of the year. Performance-wise on Switch is great. It runs really nice. It's like the first 3D Pokemon game that we've had probably ever that doesn't run like absolute dog water. So that's been great.
Yeah, from what we saw at PAX, I was intrigued by it. I don't really follow Pokemon releases, although I love Pokemon as well. I'm not in that universe. In fact, I think the only Pokemon I've ever truly beat is Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of them I just kind of played around with.
Well, if you've beat Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you've actually partially or kind of beat Red and Blue version as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least gone through that world.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And I had quite a bit of fun with, what was the one that we were playing together for a while?
We were playing...
Was it Pearly Pearl with Diamondy Diamond?
Yeah. You've nailed the names. That's exactly what they're called. Yes, we both were playing those for a little bit, and those were remakes of Diamond and Pearl.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and I had quite a bit of fun with that. I would love to go back to it. In fact, I would love for me and you and Luna to do a big co-op playthrough at some point soon.
I'm totally down. Just let me know when.
Which one do you think we should play when we do that?
I think it's unfair to start somebody off who hasn't played a Pokemon game on a spin-off game. I think you got to pick a mainline game. I've toyed around with this idea before, but yeah, it's got to be a mainline game for sure. So whether it's Diamond or Pearl, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, even the original, or I guess the revision of the original Fire Red and Leaf Green, which I highly recommend because you cannot sprint in the original Pokemon game, which is rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a mainline game it's got to be your first Pokemon game. That's only fair.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and when he talks about his first one, he's referring to Luna because she's never played a Pokemon game before.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I'm surprised to have heard Pokemon that low on your list, but it was a big year. It was a big year, and I know Pokemon's always, it's kind of like the Call of Duty of RPGs. There's one that comes out every 1 or 2 years, and there's often low effort, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So is that your number 9?
That was number 9. Number 8.
Shoot. Number 8 for me is Lost Records Bloom and Rage. Not a lot to say about this that we already haven't said, especially when you brought it up a second ago.
Mhm.
Pretty low on my list for this year. I think it was basically forgettable in every single way. And well, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Go back and listen to our episode if you want to hear more about that.
In
Well,
head, you're doing well.
you know what? Okay, hold on. You know what? The one good thing that
Yes.
came out of this game is your dubbing of the word pit magic, which I think about anytime I hear the word pit now.
That absolutely sounds like something that I would say, but I don't remember saying it.
Oh man, it was really funny. Go back and listen to the episode. It's great.
Oh, pit magic.
Pit,
There's a
yeah, weird
lot.
pit magic.
There's a lot of pit magic going on.
Yes, there is a lot of pit magic, and still don't really know what the point of it all was.
All right. My number 8 was Death Stranding 2.
Whoa, that was unexpected. Awesome. I'm actually excited about that.
Death Stranding 2 was a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I really there's something very special and almost very spiritual about the first Death Stranding game. I hadn't played anything quite like it. It was very unique in a lot of ways. And while anytime you're like we just spoke about with Yotai, whenever you have a sequel lined up, sure, a lot of things are certainly going to stay the same. But this is a game that just never got close to the highest highs in the first game, and in a lot of ways it felt way easier than the first game, and it really turned me off. I didn't feel like I ever had to contribute to the world. For those of you who don't know, Death Stranding is a game where you can do things in the environment, and these things that you do in the environment, they can benefit others. And
Yeah.
you kind of have like a like system where you can give people thumbs up. You can be in some really tough scenarios, and somebody with their own in-game resources, with their own in-game effort, can thoughtfully play something, and that can drastically benefit you in one way or another. And I just felt there was never a genuine opportunity to throw something down, to throw a ladder down, to throw a vehicle down, or whatever it may be, to really help my fellow package deliver. And the story is very Kojima, so maybe too Kojima sometimes, I might argue.
Yep. I would argue that as well.
Which stinks because I would say the performances are spot on, the characters are well thought out. But I did admittedly get a little bit worried when I remember hearing a preview of the game where they're like, yeah, the game's really good, but like Kojima swears that players are having too much fun and he's trying to make it less fun for the players. And like I trust this guy to do his thing. He's got his vision, and games like this would never be made if it wasn't for somebody like him. And I appreciate that to the ends of the earth, but this one was just too much sauce. There's just too much sauce on this one, and it didn't quite get it done. The gameplay overall is, I would argue, a step up from the last game. This game is the best, probably the best looking game that came out this year, if not one of the best games. It looks so damn good,
Yeah.
and when you play it, you're like, this has got to be a high-end PC, and instead it's a PlayStation 5.
Yeah. Near photorealistic sometimes.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But for story reasons, for the lack of me being able to contribute or feel like I'm contributing properly, and just having some of those high highs from the first game, they just didn't quite hit for this one. The music was still fantastic. If not, some of the tracks felt like they were reused, or some of the artists that were in the first game appear again, particularly Low Roar, which again, he passed away during the development of Death Stranding 2. So I think it was very important that he was in it.
Yeah.
But albeit there's still what feels like some kind of samey feels. I don't know. I could ramble on this one, but it's tough to do a sequel. It really is. And this one it wasn't a bad game by any means. It was just not what I wanted it to be. And I had a hard time making it to the finish line, especially around the halfway to 3/4 mark.
Same for me. Unlike my experience with Ghost of Yotai, there was a point where I got immersed in Death Stranding 2, where I wanted to deliver those packages. I wanted to do all the deliveries for certain NPCs, so I got their little extra dialogue or extra, I think, weapon or music or whatever it was. And then I did so much of that I got so burnt out on the game that I just sort of, by the, like you said, halfway point, 3/4 point, I really just wanted to mainline it and get done with it, because I was just over it. And that's something I didn't experience with Death Stranding 1. Death Stranding 1 was a very moving experience for me. The game, it's one of those games that found me when I needed it, and I will never forget it. Death Stranding 2, it's a pretty forgettable experience, unfortunately.
You know, I wrote this down as a quick note after our last episode, or maybe it was our last conversation. I digress. But we should definitely do an episode of games that found me when I needed it. I think that would be a fantastic
Absolutely.
episode to rifle through some games that just kind of struck a chord at the right time, at the right place.
I would love that. I think that's a great idea. Keep that in your notes so we can get back to it when we run out of ideas for episodes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Where are we at? Number
I think it's my number 8,
number
or is it?
7,
There's number 7, yeah.
right? Because your number 8 was
Lost Records.
Lost Records. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. My number 7 was South of Midnight. And it's low on the list, but that's not because it was a bad game. It's because I played a lot of games that I liked this year. And South
Mhm.
of Midnight happens to be a little bit low on that list. But South of Midnight is a game that I actually enjoyed. I really liked it. I think it really nailed the the feeling of the South, which I don't think many games have ever done or even tried to do. I think that it really nails sort of that Cajun culture,
Mhm.
that immersion into Southern folklore that not many games get, no, not many games have attempted, and even fewer games have done well. I think this game does both right. It has pretty good gameplay. I think the combat was repetitive and a little bit annoying at times, and that's probably why it's so low on my list, but I thought the
Mhm.
story was really good. And it was just kind of a fun 20-hour experience, although I think towards the end of it, again, it was one of those games where I was just kind of ready to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this game was also my number 7, and
Oh, really? Nice.
this one kind of popped on our radar when I had a work trip and it was in New Orleans. And after I came back from
Hmm.
New Orleans and I saw that this one was on the radar for this year, I was inclined to give it a go, and I'm glad that we did. Just like you said, it's just one of those games that you wouldn't imagine that you would get as far as location goes. And I don't mean location as far as popular location, because obviously we've seen Red Dead Redemption 2 visit the Louisiana area, and I'm sure some other
Hmm.
games have as well. But this is just one of those games that, similar almost to Death Stranding, you just wouldn't think it would be made. But it was, and it was done really well. I think the art design was fantastic. The music's great. There's a lot of really touching story that you get to experience throughout the game, involving a upper class. Was she like the grandma?
Yeah, like the aristocratic grandma. Yeah.
Yeah, aristocratic grandma, and you have these talking creatures in the game, and it's just done really well. And I love the kind of old school, like thousands to early teens style of game where it's a 8 to 10 hour romp. It's linear, it's straightforward, just get in, get out, experience the game. And I really like games like that. I think sometimes people just try and design overly complex games for the sake of it, to they just think that that's what people want. But it was nice to experience something like this. I thought the combat was good, just not very deep. And there were certainly some repetitive sections, like the escape sequences that are littered throughout the game. Are it just feels like padding, and they're not difficult, they're not exciting, and it's you're certainly ready to get rid of those by the time you roll credits.
Yep.
But yeah, I really like this one.
I do too, and I have my screensaver up on my computer, which is just rotating through all the screenshots that I've taken through a decent chunk of my video gaming career. And I'm looking at all these games pop up: Breath of the Wild, Skyrim, Baldur's Gate, The Witcher, Silent Hill. Like all these games, a Plague Tale, like that just popped up. All these games are based on essentially Nordic folklore. And it's just representation matters, and we need more games focusing on other cultures. And this was a really great step in that direction. I guess that's all I'm going to say.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And good music, too. I mean, this game had incredible music.
Yeah. And I forgot to even mention they have this very cool stop motion
Yes.
style that I'm sure it's been in a couple games before it, but it's certainly unique, and it has this very almost kind of claymation fluidity to the animation. And at first I was like, like I don't know how well this is going to work, especially if you play the game on PC. You have very high frame rates, and then this kind of stop motion animation mix. But the wonderful thing about the human brain and the human eyes is that you adjust quite quickly to what might be uncanny at first when it comes to fluidity, and then you just kind of adjust and get used to it. But I thought it was a very cool use of art. Yeah, this one was really cool.
Yep, I love this game. And, I worked a job where I had to hook up like children, usually adolescents, in age like 12 to 16. up to EEG equipment, and it's kind of a time-consuming and slightly painful and annoying process for the kids. So we put on a movie, and they only really got to watch the first 30 minutes of it while I put on this little hat on their head with EEG equipment, and they got to choose between like 4 DVDs that we had, and one of them was Princess and the Frog, and it's also based on Southern Cajun folklore. And this game nails that same aesthetic in the same way, and it just reminded me of that time in my life. So it was a little bit nostalgic for me.
Mhm.
Shout out to the first 30 minutes of Princess and the Frog. Still never seen the rest of it.
I don't know if I've seen that one, or if I have, I forgot.
Well, maybe we can get really drunk and watch it sometime, because I've never seen the rest of it. I've only seen the first 30 minutes.
Let's do it. Is it an old
All right.
Disney movie?
It's not too old. It's more of a modern Disney, I think.
Okay.
Maybe like early mid-aughts, maybe 2010s.
Okay. Yeah, because old school Disney goes hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be interested to see what that's like.
Yeah. Wow, we had the same game at number 7. What are the odds?
Yeah. Lucky number 7, South of Midnight.
Yeah, South of Midnight.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks from that game. Oh man, that is a family game. It is about family. There's a lot of
Yeah. And grief.
and grief and an understanding. You start the game, it's like, here we go, classic, racist grandma, and then you kind of peel back the layers and see why she is the way that she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, great game.
Yeah, fantastic game. And the music, I gotta say it one more time. Incredible music.
Yeah, super good. More banjo.
So my number 6, I don't have a lot to say about it because I haven't played it very much, but what I have played, I really, really liked. And it's a game that I've been anticipating for a long time. This is a game called Skate Story.
I know. Yeah, I've heard of this one. Yeah, I've seen this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you play as sort of I think what's the hook? It's like you play as like a demon trying to skate through different sections of hell, basically, on the moon or something like that. It's got a wacky story, but really, really stylized. You're made of glass and you are a skateboarder. And every time you fall, you can shatter really, really easily. And it nails the vibe of skating in a weirdly stylized way. It's really intuitive. The controls are great. The camera is really good at following. It's a really fun game. Absolutely recommend it to anybody who likes video games or skateboarding, and preferably both.
Heck yeah. Now, did you ever play Skate Early Access or Skate Online, or there's some, remember the Skate game from EA from back
Yeah.
in the day? That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that came out in Early Access in 2025, and I thought about it and went, "Oh, it's like an online games as service thing," and I never gave it a shot. But do you ever pick that one up?
Haven't played it. I really kind of, once I stopped skateboarding in real life, I
Mhm.
stopped playing skateboarding games.
So that's why we don't have skating games. It's your fault.
It is my fault, right? I mean, once I left the skateboard scene, it kind of lost its steam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, it's just I really like Tony Hawk Underground. I mean, that's probably in my top 30, or it's probably my top 15 games of all time as far as like nostalgia goes. I loved that game. It was so much fun, and I just played the shit out of it. And Tony Hawk Underground 2, that was equally great. And then skateboarding games, Skate came out, but when did that game Skate come out on 360, Ryan? Was that like 2007, 2008?
It probably was, yeah, late, like mid to late thousands. And I think they made 3 of them, and then they just stopped making them. Same thing. A lot of snowboard games were coming out around that time. Everything from SSX Tricky to Amped, and some other snowboarding games. And I think, what was that? The redhead kid who was super good at snowboarding. Shaun White. Yeah, Shaun White, I think, had a game. And then, like, everyone, like, industry-wide just stopped making skate and snowboard games.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me sad.
I think that it's just because those sort of extreme sports that were really in vogue for a while sort of lost their sex appeal to the Gen Z a little bit. I think that was a very millennial thing and sort of defined the early thousands.
Yeah,
At
like
least
X Games.
as far as like American suburbia culture goes.
Yeah, I agree. It was like a big counterculture, extreme sport. Both of them were, and like the '90s Attitude Era was there, and so just kind of amplified that. And
Yeah.
once the Attitude Era ended, and summer and winter X Games aren't as big of a deal. Yeah, just kind of the whole thing simmered a little bit, or evened out, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so Skate Story's good. Check it out. Again, another game with an incredible soundtrack. I'm going to be saying that a lot tonight, I think. Yeah, what's your number 6?
Number 6 for me was News Story. I've talked about this one a couple
Yeah.
times this year. I love management sim games, like spreadsheet games where you just
Me
kind
too.
of manage stuff, and there's a lot of risk and a lot of reward, and which never applies to you because it's just a video game, and that's awesome. If I tried to run a business like I run the businesses in these management games, I'd be on the street for making so many poor decisions. But yeah, I really love tycoon games and management games. News Story is 1930s, 1920s, 1930s, somewhere in there, New York, and you're running a newspaper company, and you're competing against other publications, and there's the mafia, and there's the politicians, and there's the aristocrats, and all these different groups of people, and you get to create news, and this news is kind of teetering on the slider of what one would call like very left or very right or very center, and you get to kind of create either a fun balance of trying to please everybody or creating like very hysterical news that only certain groups of people really want to listen to. And as you go through the city, you try and create newspapers that certain populations will really like. So maybe like these folks over here in New York, they just want to hear about sports, or other people want to hear about crime and so on. And you slowly build up your newspaper tower with employees, and there's all sorts of management, and the employees have likes and dislikes, and you send your employees off to find their news articles. You'll be shipping your journalists across the nation, or even across the world. You can go to Europe and stuff, and try and put together a newspaper in 1 week. You try and find all the best stories in the week. You put that together. You actually get to splice together your own newspaper. You get to pick the front page and what goes on it, and all the different aspects. You can have ads, and it's very fun for those who like these styles of games. It's not overly deep. It's just the right amount of depth that keeps you playing. The music's phenomenal. It's like this rainy day jazz music that just very relaxingly plays in the background. And then when you finally release your newspaper, you kind of have this big band triumphant, and you're cranking out your newspaper and printing it. So yeah, it's just a great game. It came out into early access at the beginning of 2025, and then hit 1.0 right at the tail end of the year. Highly recommend checking it out. It's overwhelmingly positive on Steam, if this is something down your alley. So yeah.
It's definitely going to be on my list for a palate cleanser style game when I get done with the game that I'm currently playing. It's probably going to be the next one that I pick up. So yeah, I've been anticipating it. You've been talking about it a lot. It seems right up my alley. And yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it, but it looks amazing.
Yeah. That's my number 6.
So did you explain this? So just to satisfy my curiosity, how do the news stories come to you?
Yeah.
Because you're the newspaper, right?
Right. Exactly. So you have telegraphers, God, I'm blanking on the technology.
Like Telegram?
Yes, yeah. So you have some guys, and they got their headsets on, and they're listening to their sources, or they've got these connections and stuff, and you have these folks who are listening in, and they listen in. You start off the game, you only listen into the United States. So you've got these guys, they're on their headphones all the time, they're listening for the latest and greatest news, and then boom, you get something. And you click on that area of the United States, and it could be any different kind of news, and then you decide whether or not you want to pursue that news. If you want to send a journalist to that location to then get the story, travel back to your news tower, get that paperwork into I don't know if it's typography or what the right words are here, but yeah, they break down the article and get it into a readable format. And then you have that article to put into your paper. You can edit every news article, so you could definitely skew things to be like borderline pushing the truth, or completely lying, or you just kind of completely skew a story to benefit your readers and what they want to hear, just like modern news. And No. And to make things more exciting, there's all sorts of like little things that can happen when your journalists are out there. So maybe you're investigating like mob activity, right? Because this is the 30s, so like the mafia is very prominent in the United States. Like everyone's getting shot, and there's prohibition, and and all sorts of crazy things are happening in the United States around this time period. And sometimes your journalist can get the crap beat out of them by the mob, and now they're out of commission for a while, and you don't have the article, and you got to figure out what to do next. Or I don't know. There's just a bunch of examples like that where things can happen when they're out gaining or grabbing that story. So sorry, long-winded answer to a simple question, but yeah, that's more or less it.
I'm excited to get my hands on it. And that was number 6 for you?
That was number 6.
Halfway there, number 5. And this will go a little bit faster because a lot of these games we've talked about already. So number 5 is Death Stranding 2 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Death Stranding 1. Death Stranding 2, I pretty much agreed with almost everything you said. It was a bit of a slog. There were redeeming qualities. It's, in my opinion, it kind of undid a lot of the themes that it set up in the first one, which was unfortunate. Yeah, and I don't want to give any spoilers, I guess, because this isn't a podcast about Death Stranding 2. So we have an episode on it. Go listen to it, and you can get more of our thoughts. I think that it clearly set up the foundation for a third, most likely starring Ella Fanning. I'm not sure which one it is. Ella Fanning, I'm going to go with that. And I'm looking forward to it because I like her as an actor. I am not sure that it's going to be a good game. We'll see.
I'm excited for what the gameplay might be in the third entry.
It could potentially be very, very interesting. Yeah, I will be intrigued. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, if there's one thing Kojima's good at, it's his crazy set pieces. I mean, everything from Wood Kid, which is a fantastic choice for the general recurring themes of the game, the musical themes, that is, the dance off weird music sequence that happened. It's so, I think I saw some video somewhere on YouTube of somebody saying Kojima saw that Alan Wake 2 had a dance sequence and he wanted to do his even harder, which kind of made me laugh, because that definitely it definitely did it better and harder. That's for sure. I'm not sure if it was necessary, but it did it. So I don't know. It was fine. I expected more, and I'm looking forward to whatever comes next out of that universe and out of that developer.
Yeah.
What do you got for number 5?
This is one that I had to put on my top 10. It's not complete. I only played about 25 hours of it, but this is one of those games this year that absolutely took the world by storm. No one saw it coming, and it was an absolute banger. I was horribly addicted to it and then decided to put it down so that I could eventually experience the 1.0 release. It is none other than Schedule 1.
Oh my god, I forgot about Schedule 1. Damn it.
Schedule 1.
Did that come out this year?
It came out this year.
I did not even put that on my list.
Schedule 1 is one of those games that comes out and it just makes sense. And you just wonder why somebody hasn't made this game yet. Solo developer, I believe. I believe it's just one guy who did the entire thing. And I love crime games. I love crime media. I think dealing drugs in video games is a ton of fun and a great natural gameplay loop. I believe you were playing it first and you're like, dude, you got to play the Schedule 1 game. And I was like, yeah, I've seen this on the Steam storefront. And yeah, I checked it out after you started playing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this game is a load of fun. It was an absolute hoot. I think it's genius to allow you to create your own drugs by mashing together a bunch of things that make sense to make drugs, a bunch of things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. Shoving banana and donuts and Coca-Cola and all these weird, bubble gum, all these weird ass items into actual drugs to come up with these new concoctions. Half the game is just experimenting and trying to find the craziest drug mixture to sell to clients. The gameplay loop is very addicting, and the only reason why I stopped is because I wanted to see this thing from start to finish once 1.0 hit. It definitely wasn't feature complete and had a long ways to go. Probably still does, considering it's a single developer. Yeah, Schedule 1. Who would have seen this one? Another 2025 just out of the shadows, take my money kind of game.
Absolutely. I can't believe I forgot it off my list. That was a really, really fun game. It seemed to just be all over Steam for at least a good month. It was just getting praise right and left. I jumped on the train. It was a lot of fun, but it was a bright star that burned bright and fizzled quickly for me. I was really, really into it. And then all of a sudden I was just like, you know what? I feel like I've done all this game has to offer now. And I just put it down immediately.
Yep. Just like a high, it's over before you know it. Just like doing drugs in real life. It was fun. It was fun for a short period of time before the high fizzled.
Exactly. We've heard. We have never tried it ourselves.
Exactly. I've just watched some movies where people looked high on them. So yeah.
Yep. Yep. And played Schedule 1, so now you know exactly what doing drugs is like.
Exactly. And making drugs. I'm pretty good at I didn't realize that I'd be so good at making drugs, but
And you can name the drugs too, and I'm really good at that.
oh, I forgot about naming the drugs. Yes. Oh, yes. I wish I would remember some of the names.
You know what I loved about the game was the tutorial like sequence. It was so weird and vibey and had more of a story than I expected there to be. It was a really fun experience, and I'm definitely gonna come back to it once it's feature complete and give it another whirl.
Yeah.
Give it another toke.
Another skateboarding game where you also deal drugs.
Yes, yes. I can't believe I played 2 skateboarding games this year.
What was your number? Wait, did you already do number 5?
Yeah, my number 5 was Death Stranding 2. We're
That's
on to
right.
number 4.
That's right.
Number 4 for me was a game that I did not complete. I probably got about 85% of it and then put it down because I got distracted. And for another reason I'll get into is, you know what, Ryan, you said it. This is a game of surprise hits, surprise games that came out of nowhere and no one was expecting and just happened to be really, really good. For me at number 4, that is Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. I told you about this game. I really wanted to record about it. I pushed you to play it. This is probably in the height of you being busy and not being able to play games, so you didn't. But
Mhm.
man, it is a fantastic game with flaws, but a fantastic game.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about this one a bunch. It is a game that I have had in the back of my mind in the sense of I really need to play this. I knew you're pushing for me to play this one particularly, and I think we got into spooky season and started playing Alan Wake and some others, and I just didn't quite get to it. So tell me more about this one and some of the things, like what makes this a game that you just ended up liking so much but ended up not finishing, or what were the downsides? Without maybe spoiling too much, if you can.
Yeah, it's essentially an old school style RPG, but has Skyrim mechanics. It's Skyrim. If Skyrim was a hardcore RPG, which I don't think it qualifies as that.
Would it be too much to say that this is Skyrim crossed over with something like Kingdom Come Deliverance, or is that too hardcore?
No,
kind of
it's
in that direction?
similar to that. Yeah, it's similar to that. For sure. It's more, I mean, Kingdom Come Deliverance is very grounded in reality and history.
Mm-hmm.
Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon takes place in the realm of King Arthur and the Round Table and Merlin. So it's very magic based. It's dark fantasy. It's dark fantasy through and through. And man, let me tell you, this game is dark. It goes to very dark places. You know what it reminds me of? Remember Enderal?
Yes.
It's very much like Enderal.
Interesting.
I would say it's maybe a little bit more polished than Enderal, but not by much.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't know, Enderal is a standalone mod for Skyrim, and it's based in an entirely new universe with different story, different characters, different mechanics. Basically, the only thing that's similar is the engine, the art style, and the fighting mechanics, but everything else has changed. Enderal is a fantastic game. I highly recommend anyone who likes Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls goes and plays Enderal. And you know what? I highly recommend anyone who likes Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls also plays Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. This is a independently developed game, fully voice acted, really good story, solid music, solid exploration, solid combat, really great RPG elements. You can own homes, you can cast spells, you can do sword fight, you can do big bonk, you can be a sneaky assassin, you can get these crazy overpowered magic that King Arthur gives you. Sorry if that's too much of a spoiler. You can do a lot of things in this game. There's 2 reasons I fell off of it. Number 1, I also got distracted by spooky season games. Number 2, the 3rd act was not quite completed when I was finishing it, and it got a patch. Right when I got to Act 3, it got a patch to complete Act 3. So I want to go back and finish Act 3 and kind of hang my hat on the game. Really solid experience. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I mean, how often do we get games that you can compare to Skyrim that are actually decent, you know?
Yeah. Not very many.
Yeah, it's an ambitious thing to try, and this game succeeds in more ways than it fails. And I highly recommend it to people who like that kind of game.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this one. I still have it on my, I guess it's backlog technically now that we're into the next year. But yeah, I certainly want to visit this one. Speaking, and as a quick sidebar, I do want to shout out Kingdom Come Deliverance too. I did not play this year. I could almost guarantee that it would be on my top 10. I played the first one and loved it. And just the way that you describe this game, not to say that they're one-to-one, whether they clearly have huge differences, but I feel like the intricacy of the RPG elements of games like this one and like Kingdom Come are very similar. And and very enjoyable.
Yeah, and just the intricacy, the depth, the immersiveness, the games that aren't afraid to go to a dark place. Those check all the box. That checks all the boxes for me. Like
Would
for
you
example, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, would you say it's darker fantasy than The Witcher? Because I know The Witcher can be very lighthearted, but it can also be very dark as well.
I would say it's pretty equivalent. It's probably about the same. Maybe, yeah, probably about the same. I wouldn't say it's darker than The Witcher.
Okay. Awesome.
But it's about the same. Yeah, it's great. But it has more immersive things like The Witcher. So for example, and this might be a slight spoiler if you're really sensitive to spoilers, but this is a mechanic, not a story spoiler. So skip ahead 20 seconds if you are afraid of that. But there's a mechanic where in place of like having a screenshot or photo mode, you have a journal a sketchbook you pull out and you literally just draw a picture of whatever environment you're looking at.
Dang.
And it's all in black and white, right? So it's really cool little things like that immerse you in this world.
So like Arthur's sketchbook, but more.
Yeah. You don't play as King Arthur, but yes.
Sorry. Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2's like sketchbook in his journal, except like more than this, so like a little bit deeper as far as
exactly, because you take a sketch of anything you're looking at. Wait, do you do that in Red Dead too?
You don't do it as a player, but as the story progresses, Arthur will sketch things, drawings and pictures of wildlife and animals and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So it's actually something that you control as a player, which is really cool.
Yeah. So this is something you control as a player. Anything you're looking at, you just click your little sketchbook button. Once you have it equipped, your character just draws a sketch of whatever you're looking at. That's like a screenshot, but in sketch form. It's really, really cool. And it's a game full of intricate side quests that mean something to you. You care about what's going on. It's funny. It's sad. It's scary. It's emotional. It's a really interesting RPG experience that you only get from games like Baldur's Gate, really. And to have that in a first-person game, I mean, the combat is, think slightly better than Skyrim's combat, maybe, but you get a really hardcore RPG out of it. So it's pretty fun. I highly recommend it. It almost reminds me of an Obsidian style, or maybe old school Obsidian style game.
Yeah, old school Obsidian's where it's at. I'm not as much in love with the Obsidian's newer work.
Me neither. I haven't lost faith in the dev studio, but you're right. I'm not a huge fan of it. In fact, this game was compared to Avowed a lot, which I believe also came out this year that I didn't get around to.
Yeah, I Avowed's art style turned me off so much to the point where I didn't even try it.
And it also seemed like a little bit of a dumbed down RPG. You can attack me actually, I don't know if you can attack me. I don't know if we have any social medias up really that we are active, but you can email digitalseapodcast@gmail.com and attack me for that if you want to. But it seems like it was a dumbed down version of an RPG. And I want to play more hardcore RPGs these days than action RPGs.
Yeah. Tickle my brain.
Exactly. I want to make a build so broken that I can't play the game anymore.
Yeah.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is, for those who know me, it's probably not a surprise. This has been a long wait for this game. Myself and many others probably didn't think we were ever going to get this game ever. Kind of thought the franchise was dead for a long time, up until Dread came out a couple years ago. But it's Metroid Prime 4. This one is only as high up on the list because I am biased. I love Metroid games. It's so great to be back. It was like a 17-year wait or something like that between Metroid Prime games. This one went through development hell. I think it was originally announced back in 2016 or 2017. The developers were not the original developers of Metroid Prime. Nintendo gave them a couple years to try and kind of get the ball rolling, and then they cut that developer loose, brought back the original developers of Metroid Prime, and then they restarted the entire development process from that point forward. So yeah, it's been a bit of a rough journey to get here, and it certainly shows. With that said, this is a must play for the Switch 2 when it comes to graphical fidelity. We haven't seen anything quite like it from Nintendo when it comes to just pure graphics, which is very exciting because I think if you are somebody who enjoys Nintendo games, Nintendo franchises, you're very accustomed to being a generation or 2 or sometimes 3 depending on the game behind, graphically speaking. This game has some of the highest highs in the franchise and some of the lowest lows, and I do mean some of the lowest lows. I think this is a perfect game for first-time Metroid players to jump into, or first-time Metroid Prime players to jump into. It is not as convoluted as some of the prior entries, but it's certainly not the best. There's nothing quite like a Metroid game. They're not going to be for everybody. I can't really understate that It is a very, very unique game. I don't think there's really anything quite like it out there. But because of that, it's certainly not for everyone. And there's a reason why Nintendo hasn't messed around a whole lot with the Metroid property for the last, almost 2 decades now. That said, I loved my moments with it when it was good. I was very disappointed in the moments that were not good. I think the Metroidvania genre as we know it has evolved, and this game a lot of times has not evolved. It's one of its biggest drawbacks. I think, without spoiling anything, towards the end of the game, there are some very, very, very questionable decisions that were made. I don't know if this was to pad the playtime. I don't know, honestly, how this very specific aspect of the game passed quality assurance. And I don't mean like most first-party Nintendo games, the game never crashes, there's no bugs, and the game runs very, very well. This is all the Metroid games perform very, very well when it comes to hardware performance, regardless of what platform they came out on. But that's kind of where my applause ends for this one. This one was tough. I think anybody who's a Metroid fan knows that this one was a bittersweet game. I'm so happy that they're back. I really, really hope that this game sells well enough so that we get more Metroid, and I hope that the developers were able to, I don't even know if learn lessons is the right word, because the developers had to pick up a shattered vase and glue it back together as far as developing the game goes.
Yeah.
And make it something that they can I don't know. This one was a tough one. Yeah, I'll just end there. Otherwise I'll just blabber and sound confused. But yes, Metroid's back. I would certainly recommend Dread over this game. I know one's 2D and one's 3D, and that can be a deal breaker for a lot of folks, and I get it. Dread is a superior game in every way, shape, and form. This Prime entry is probably the weakest out of the 4 Prime games. I would probably recommend the remaster of Metroid Prime 1. Well, I'd probably wait. I'd probably tell you to wait to play any of the other Metroid games, because the controls are very archaic and very obnoxious to go back and play on old hardware. So yeah, Metroid Prime 4, we're back, but also damn it.
I wish I could contribute more to this conversation, but I have never played a Metroid game.
I know you kind of have mixed feelings about the genre. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't like it, or you kind of, do you lean more one way or the other?
Yeah, I do like it sometimes. I generally don't. I like to complete areas before going through them, and I don't like having to double back. Now, if it's done well, I don't mind it, and it seems like I can't really form too strong of an opinion about it if I haven't played the original, the genre that started it all.
Yeah.
But I remember coming over to your place recently when you were playing it, and I looked up, and for the first second, I was like, oh, is this like a new Halo game or something like that? Because it looked really good. And you're like, no, this is a new Metroid game. I was like, wow, that's probably one of the best looking Switch 2 games I've ever seen, or Switch anything games that I've ever seen.
Yeah, when it comes to Nintendo, it's the most impressive. They just got the fidelity cranked up on there, and it is amazing to see what can be done on what would be considered inferior hardware when the developers have enough time and kind of get to fiddle around with their dev tools and stuff. Yeah, damn it. I love Metroid so much, but this was it's a hard one to recommend. It really is. Do
you love Metroid as a genre, like any Metroidvania style exploration games or whatever the genre branches are? Are you fully on board as soon as you see one, or is it case by case?
Definitely case by case. I do inherently like seeing something that I can't access and then finally getting the tools to access that thing and going back later and getting it. As far as gameplay loops, I love that. I really do. There are certain games that do it very poorly where you're like, I've waited the whole game to, get to this point where I backtrack to this one item and the payoff isn't there. I think that's the biggest weakness of the genre, where you're backtracking for things that don't matter and don't really affect the gameplay well enough to the point where it's ever worth it. It's just not a payoff for the player. And then other times the solution or the puzzle or getting there or the journey itself to the backtracking is not worth it. Those are like the 2 biggest issues with the genre that I have. Either the payoff itself isn't good or the journey getting there isn't, you're just, I'm doing the same thing twice now. Like, thanks for wasting my time. It feels like padding.
Yeah.
Those critiques are certainly valid for the genre, without a doubt. I think when they're done well, it's great stuff. I love it.
Have you ever played Hollow Knight?
I still have not played Hollow Knight. I know everyone's been talking about Silksong in last year, 2025. I have it on my backlog. I feel like after last year rather, I have to go back and play the original because everyone talks about how this is the pinnacle of the genre. Like this is how it's done. And I would certainly love to see how, I think it's Team Cherry is the developers' names of Hollow Knight and Silksong, how they tackle this.
Yeah, and I've played probably 30 hours of Hollow Knight, and I did like it a lot. I did find myself annoyed with the not knowing. Maybe it's just that I'm dumb when it comes to this genre because I don't play them very often. Sometimes I'll see something and I'll be like, jump, double jump. I can't get it. Maybe I'm not jumping right. And I'll just kind of stare at it and try to come at it from different angles and be stubborn about it instead of being like, you know what, maybe I'll come back. But I'm always haunted by the thought, maybe I just didn't jump right and I could have that item right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to wait and have that item later and realize that I was dumb and I could have had it right now. I don't know. It's a strange dilemma that I just want to explore the area, get the treats, and then move on. You know what I mean?
No, I totally know what you mean. And you kind of have to unhinge your brain from that.
Yeah.
And if that's not possible, then it's just not possible. But you kind of have to, like, going into it, it's like I have my first playthrough, which is where I just move forward. And then I have my second playthrough where I come back and mop up the scraps. And that is if you kind of have that, not completionist mindset, but it's kind of like that where you want to do the most that you can in this one area and you don't want to revisit it because you just don't. You want to get the most out of that area and move on.
Yeah.
And that's completely valid because a lot of times in a lot of Metroidvania games, it's not worth going back. The payoff isn't there or the solution to the puzzle isn't there or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it. But I definitely want to go back and get some Metroid in, but man, it's going to be pretty far down on my backlog.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. What are we on, 3?
Number 3, my lord. I was holding up 2
Wow.
fingers for anyone who's wondering.
Plowing ahead to number 3. Number 3 on my list is a game, again, you're right, Ryan, came out of nowhere, wasn't really expecting it, Ball Pit.
Yes.
God, I love this game, and it consumed me for a couple weeks. All I wanted to do was shoot those balls at those enemies, whatever the gameplay loop is. It's a really, really fun game. I know you haven't played it yet, right?
I watched you play it when I came over a month or 2 ago. I was sitting on your couch, and you're like, "Hey, do you mind if I take a run at the final boss?" And sure enough, you went in there, made work of the boss and rolled credits.
That's right. You watched me beat the final boss.
I was there.
That's right.
I was there.
Wow. Yeah. Or clear the final level or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple and innovative take on kind of an old school gameplay, although I'm trying to think of an old school arcade game that might have had a similar concept. But basically, it's a top-down, you're in a column or a set of columns. You're basically going through, you're exploring a pit, or unfortunately I guess there might be pit magic here, but a much more powerful pit magic than even the extremely powerful pit magic that's in Lost Records.
Damn, that's powerful. What a pit.
You're in the pit, there's enemies in the pit, you're trying to shoot your balls up, they bounce off the walls, they bounce off enemies, and every time they bounce off enemies, they do damage, and the damage is based on the kind of ball it is, the element that it does damage with, and you can combine different balls to make different powers. It's all about leveling up your balls and combining your balls. So you can have like an earthquake ball that does AoE damage, and then you combine that with a ghost ball that goes through enemies instead of bouncing off them. So instead of hitting one row of enemies, it bouncing back to you to catch it and throw again, it goes through all the enemies and does damage to everybody in the column, all the way to the back, bounces off the back of the screen, and then comes back to you. You have different characters you can unlock. There's a little mini game where you're kind of doing a little town management style mini game back at your home base. It's a roguelike experience. So it's kind of like any roguelike you can think of. It's got a lot going on. It's very simple though, and it is really, really fun and addictive. And it's got a really satisfying sound design. When you're fighting all the enemies and they get too close to you and the enemies are starting to get more powerful, they start chanting in unison with the music. It's a really cool thing. And the last time I can think of a game like this that's come out in the indie realm was 2024, I believe, with Balatro. And it's very comparable to that game in the sense of how fun and addicting it is. Highly recommend it. It's a fantastic experience. I beat it in a couple weeks, probably put like 30 hours into it maybe, and I loved almost every minute of it.
Yeah. 2025 is just the year of sneaker hits. And
yeah,
I would say that this is definitely one of those games where if you were just a spectator, it doesn't quite make sense. There's a lot going on the screen.
Yeah.
It's a lot of balls and a lot of doing stuff with balls, and it's that bullet hell column style. It reminds me a lot of when I would go to the arcades as a kid, they would have these column bullet hell games. Usually, like you'd be like a World War II fighter, and you would just fight like crazy like Metal Slug waves of flying enemies on screen, trying to avoid getting hit for as long as you can while continuing and clearing each section. It's definitely not something that's new, but it's like they've seemingly taken a very fresh spin on what is possible within that like genre of game. And I would imagine it's absolutely something that you got to get a hold of. You got to put it in your hands. Otherwise, you just like, if you're just going to look at it, if you're going to watch a Let's Play on YouTube, it's just not quite going to click until you get your hands on it.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And I went in blind. I just heard that it was getting overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and I was like, all right, let me pick this thing up and see what it's all about. And I immediately understood the hype. Even like in the first couple rounds, I just knew that I was going to be addicted to this game. So highly recommend it. I know it's in your backlog, Ryan, but give it a shot. I think you're really going to like it. Yeah. It's a great palate cleanser for when you're done with the big experience and you just need a couple of smaller experiences that don't require a lot of cognitive overhead. You can just kind of turn it on and zone out and shoot your balls, and it's fun.
The child in me did everything I possibly could to not bust out laughing for like that first 30 seconds of you explaining the game.
Yep. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And hey, you did not make your taint joke when it came to Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon.
I also held that one back.
You're really mature. I really appreciate your maturity and level of professionalism.
It's difficult, but
yeah.
we all have to take one for the team sometimes, and I just took two. So
yeah, proud of you.
Yeah, Ball Pit. Yeah, I'm excited to get after that one. There's something very special about the indie vision, and it absolutely does not take crazy graphics or something that's going to wow you with sprinkles and sparkles.
Exactly.
And whether it be Schedule 1 or Ball Pit or whatever, News Tower, these games
Balatro,
are not going to
FTL.
Yeah. They're not going to floor you with graphics, but they're going to floor you with the gameplay. And there's something about a vision that is executed, and at the end, you come out with this phenomenal experience.
Absolutely. All right, what was your number 3?
Number 3. All right. My number 3 is what just about everyone and their grandma would consider game of the year this year. It's none other than Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I'm sure for whoever listened to the Expedition 33 episode that I probably ruffled some feathers, and that's fine. I apologize if I didn't explain myself in the best way. In short, this game absolutely deserves Game of the Year. I'm not going to sit here and argue about it, whether or not it deserves Game of the Year. This game it's the first release from an indie team. I believe we saw it at Game Awards 2024. Prior to its release, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe we saw it at Summer Games Fest. I can't recall. But we definitely saw this game before 2025 hit. And I remember looking at it going like, oh yeah, like that's a pretty flashy, cool looking Persona style game. And then it comes out and it's just, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's playing it. Everyone's talking about it's the second coming of JRPGs. There's nothing like it. It's revolutionary. You got to play it. So I played it and it's very good. It is very good. The team behind it should be super proud of themselves. And as much as I shit on Unreal Engine, which I will probably continue to do for forever until they fix their shit, this game can only be made because this engine exists. And as much as I might shit on it, like this Unreal Engine is so important to the industry because people with a smaller team and a huge vision can create something like this, and it was phenomenally executed. Before this episode, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't a minority or wasn't just being whiny about tech and yada yada, which I certainly can be, but I did make sure to look up the time period in which I played the game and when everyone was having issues with Claire's crashing. So this game crashed more for me than any other game for the entire year of 2025. I think I actually documented how many times this game crashed. It crashed over 30 times. I think
Wow.
I put around 30 to 35 hours into this game, so I was averaging about one crash an hour. And when I was reflecting on why I was so frustrated and soured by this game, a lot of this had to do with just technical issues that were unique to select individuals. I certainly know that you did not have these issues, but when I went online, I looked on the message boards, I looked at the dates, and sure enough, both before, during, and after the time that I played this game, a lot of people were saying the same exact thing that I was. No matter what I do, no matter what drivers I roll back to, clean install, what have you, I'm getting a crash every 30 minutes to an hour, is what a lot of people are saying.
Man.
Unfortunately, this was me, and it's tough to play any video game that crashes every hour when
Yeah.
when you're a gamer. I'm admittedly used to it when it comes to modding games. You and I have modded Skyrim to death over the years, and when you mod a game, or if you just don't do it as good as you possibly could, there's going to be a lot of crashes. You kind of get it. You're pushing the product further past what it was ever intended to do. But when something out of the box has these issues, it becomes very frustrating, and it is probably the reason, the largest reason why I was very frustrated with this game being the game of the year. Now, on the flip side, indie team, they bring JRPGs to the forefront. A turn-based video game made game of the year. A
Yeah.
turn-based video game made game of the year. And it wasn't just but 2 years ago in 2023 that Baldur's Gate did the same thing for the CRPG genre. Now we're getting it for the
Exactly.
JRPG genre, and it is
Yeah.
phenomenal. It is so exciting. It is so awesome. I'm so happy that this is happening. But this game is still my number 3. I've played a crap load of JRPGs, and this one just does not quite do it for me when it comes to just the game itself. I think the story is very good, minus the ending, and some character goofs maybe here or there. The combat is very, very, very flashy and very exciting and intense, and similar to many other games, it forces you to learn the enemy types, and you got to have the reflexes, or you got to have the know-how, and you got to memorize the move sets to progress in this game. And it is a big double-edged sword for me personally. I don't the second biggest thing for me that kept it from being my game of the year, kept it at the number 3 spot, was it really, to me, and I know many will argue with me all day long about this, but it really just comes down to memorizing enemy patterns and either dodging or parrying.
Yeah.
Yes, you can spend a lot of time creating super cool synergy and super overpowered characters, but really at the end of the day, you can only take this genre so far when it relies on this core aspect that kind of trumps everything else. And aside from that, like it's one of the best games out there, right? It's one of the best games of
Yeah.
the generation. It's one of the best things that we've seen since Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and you name the big game that changes the industry. It's phenomenal, but that's my number 3. Before I go to any longer, that's my number 3.
So I had Clair Obscur as my number 2. So that's the next one on the list. And everything you just said, I agree with. I think that you should go back and play it again in the coming years because you missed a lot of content. And anybody who hasn't listened to our episode, go back and listen to it. It was a lot of me being like, hey, yeah, and this thing? And Ryan would be like, nope, never tried it. And I was like, damn, there's a lot of that because I was really pushing Ryan to finish that game, and he was very, very busy in his life at that moment in time. So you got the rushed experience of Clair Obscur, and I think that you would enjoy it more if you had time to sink your teeth into it. That being said, everything you said about it was correct. Number 1, I want to address, I had 0 crashes in Clair Obscur. That game did not crash for me one time. And it's so strange because you and I have very, very similar hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Even before our upgrades, we had very similar hardware. In fact, basically the exact same builds. So what is it that was making your system crash and mine not? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've found is that Unreal 5 very particularly has Lumen that is more or less forced or required in almost every game that people develop on this engine. And this aspect of the engine has tons of issues with various hardware configurations is kind of the gist of it. I've seen this issue come up in a number of Unreal 5 games. Digital Foundry has talked about it to death when it comes to performance. We saw it in the Oblivion remaster that came out earlier this year. That created a ton of crashing issues and a ton of problem. There was memory leaks, and anytime you did XYZ thing, the game would crash. So it does seem to be an issue with the engine, and then it also seems to be an issue with this game particularly.
And does it come down to a matter of like brand of motherboard on PC? Or because like I said, we have the same setup. So I don't understand why it hit you so much harder than me.
Yeah, the very first thing that I tried was drivers. I tried a bunch of different driver sets. I rolled back like a full year. I rolled back 2 years. I rolled back 6 months. I rolled back a couple months. I had the latest.
Wow. Did you try turning off overlays? Did you try turning off VPNs?
Yep. Like I tried a lot of different things to try to get this game to function, and it didn't make me feel better, but it made me feel like I wasn't alone when I started looking into this issue, and everybody else was having the same problem. Not everybody, but like a lot of people on the message boards, when you search this very particular issue with this game, there's lots of problems. And I wish I would have documented all the Unreal 5 games that I played this year, because there was a small handful, but every Unreal 5 game that I played, I had issues with one way or another. Yeah. Crashing was an issue in all Unreal 5 games that I played in 2025. Every single one crashed at least once, some way worse than others. I had issues with Hellblade crashing. I had issues with Bloom and Rage crashing. I'm sure there's some other Unreal 5 games that I played this year that I had issues with. This goes back, I don't know if you remember, but like going back to Dying Light. When Dying Light originally came out, anytime I looked at fire in that game, my performance would tank.
Now, was Dying Light Unreal?
No, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dying Light is actually a proprietary engine. I could be wrong there. But for the reason why I bring that game up is because you and I, we both had, what was it, 550 Ti's?
We were farther ahead than that. We had like 980s or something like that.
Oh, I think you had like a 980. I had a 970. It was around that time period though, right? So several card generations ago, we were playing this game. We have, with exception to like maybe our GPUs being like one series difference, we pretty much had the same hardware, same CPU, same motherboards, all of that. And I had a lot of issues in that game that really soured my experience.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, PCs are complicated, and I don't know why you can have such a similar build and have completely different experiences when it comes to performance and crashes. It's very interesting to me.
It is super interesting, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot off camera, but it's like, blessed be my system, because I played Hellblade, I played Lost Records. While my performance was not great in Lost Records, I had 0 crashes. My performance was great in Hellblade, had 0 crashes. My performance was great in Hellblade 2 only because I had a better graphics card at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no crashes through any of those experiences, no crashes at all in Clair Obscur. It's strange that I don't understand what's going on there, and I would love to do some more detailed testing with our systems to try and figure that out. And maybe it's just nothing. That's the frustrating. I mean, anybody out there who's only a console player and you haven't gotten into the PC realm, don't, unless you love the best and worst of all things gaming, because the highs are so high, but oh my God, it's a very expensive hobby. It's a very tedious hobby because you're always messing with drivers and crashes and stability and tinkering and constant fear of being outdated by new technology and hardware. It's an enthusiast hobby for sure. And unless you're okay with 2K or even 1080p and lower performance, but of course me and Ryan like to push it 4K ultra 100 plus FPS, or we're not happy.
I can't recall if this was a 3080 Ti game or not, because it was right on the borderlands of us getting our 5090s this summer.
It was. Yes, it was. Clair Obscur was a 3080 Ti game for us.
Yeah. And I'd be very interested. Again, go back 5090. Is it a weird graphics card issue? But this is certainly a game that I want to revisit. I want to revisit so that I can play it at a slower pace, so I can get all that side content that I did skip. I definitely golden path this game, and I would argue with any game, but especially a RPG of pretty much any sorts. It's meant to be a slow burn, and that's when you get the most, I think, out of RPGs. is
Yeah.
when you have that slow burn, when you really get to experience everything. So as far as like how I played the game, I certainly could have created a better experience for myself by how I played. But yeah, this was a tough one. I made sure to undo the overclocks on my CPU, on my RAM. I tried so many different things to get this game to run right, and I just couldn't do it,
Yeah.
and it sucked. It was a very frustrating experience. And
Unreal is a very flawed engine. It's an amazing engine. I like what you said earlier about the fact that its existence is why games like this exist sometimes, but it is not without its drawbacks, and we all pay the price for it as gamers.
Yeah.
And the game is not perfect on its own. I think that there's some. You're right. You can have a terrible RPG build, but if you don't get those parries down, or you can have a terrible RPG build and still just completely dominate enemies if you're really, really good at those perfect parrying, at the perfect parrying system. And you can have a really, really good RPG build and get destroyed if you aren't able to parry very well. There's some bosses that no joke, that you have to, as a player, have to parry in the 30s or 40 times between turns. If you really get into it, there's bosses that will literally attack you and you have to parry 30 or 40 times or they will one hit you. It is crazy. This game is not my favorite game of all time. This game is not necessarily for me, but man, I really enjoyed my time with it. It's got one of the best original soundtracks I've ever heard. I mean, we're talking God of War 2018 levels of good. The story was intriguing and heartbreaking and funny and tragic. It was very, very French in the best way possible. It was beautiful. Performance issues were a thing for sure, because again, played it with a 3080 Ti, which is still a very good graphics card by today's standards, and could not get through it at a solid frame rate. But man, the art direction, the vibe, it's a very, very good game. Go to listen to our episode on it. I think it was the first episode we ever released to the public. And man, it came full circle when we went to PAX West in the summer and got to see a lot of the cast, got to watch that panel, got to see almost every cosplay. Every other cosplay we saw was some sort of Claire Obscure cosplay. It was a really fun time. Fantastic game, and you're right, you hit the nail on the head. It is pushing the genre forward. It is a huge middle finger to the AAA developers who keep on trying to do these cash grabs with the Call of Duties, with the Pokemons every year, with the, you name it. The true games for gamers is coming back, and I feel like we're kind of in the middle of what we're going to look back on as a 2007 era golden, or a 2007 golden era of gaming.
I mean, that's exactly it. It'll be interesting to see dev team sizes and if they get smaller or if they stay bloated and create, I don't know, just AAA slop, for better or less words.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need massive development teams for very big projects, right? If you're Ubisoft, you're going to make Assassin's Creed. If you're Rockstar, you're going to make GTA or Red Dead. You got to have these big teams for these games. I get it. But for everybody else who doesn't have a blank check, yeah, it's like, this is it.
Yeah.
And again, I loathe this engine, but this game does not happen without Unreal. And as much as it pains me to say it, it's completely true. And I'm so happy that this game had a chance because of something like that.
Absolutely. Well, that was my number 2. So we're on your number 2. What is your number 2?
My number two is, again, another one in which we saw, I believe, at Game Awards 2024. Came out 2025. We saw it. We went, oh, that's cool. Put it on the Steam wish list, and boom, it comes out, and it's phenomenal. Dispatch, number 2 on my list.
Dispatch, baby, yeah.
It does all of the same things that we just talked about. It's the visual novel equivalent to what Baldur's Gate did for CRPGs, what Claire Obscure did for JRPGs. And what I didn't realize when we recorded our episode, this team seems to consist of quite a few Telltale developers, which I didn't know until I read after playing the game.
I didn't know that either.
Then I took a step back and I went, oh my gosh, The Last of Us Season 1 with Clementine is one of the few games that had actually made me cry proper. And these are the developers who come and make Dispatch and release Dispatch in 2025. And while I didn't cry in this one particularly, this one still gave me the feels in a number of different ways and ended up making my number 2 spot. And it just has to, because of what it did for the genre. And I don't think I've felt as strongly about this kind of game since Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. And then also, I would say probably Life is Strange, the original Life is Strange game, and Before the Storm, as far as the genre is concerned. This is just one of those games that came out, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I would argue that while gameplay wise, it didn't necessarily blow the roof off. It did so much more for the genre than a lot of the other very successful games in the genre have done. You could tell that the developers were not going to have you walk around slowly in a room and observe items and have the character talk about how this notebook is red or how this fish tank has fish in it or whatever, right? Like we've seen it a million times. It's happened a million times. I would argue Telltale is probably some of the pioneers of this genre and making it popular, alongside probably Don't Nod or Deck Nine or whoever you want to point to. And as someone who typically does not like superhero stuff, regardless of the approach, this is one that put a smile on my face many times. This is one that I really enjoyed. Again, I only have a small handful of superhero content that I can swallow. And this was not a hard pill to swallow. I think by the time I finished the first episode of this, I was locked in from start to finish. As soon as I got to the end of episode 1, I was like, yep, this is it. I'm in. And then I think the very next day, I played the rest of the game in one sitting. Yeah. Dispatch, my number 2. We recorded an episode about this recently. But yeah, if you're looking to hear more of my takes, have at it.
Dispatch was it was one of the few games I've ever given a 10 out of 10. We're talking you can count on one hand all the games I've given a 10 out of 10, and somehow Dispatch got one from me this year. It's a game that was just, it knew exactly what it wanted to be, and it executed it perfectly. I didn't know that it had all those ex-Telltale devs on there either, because of course, as we know, Telltale is actually just Deck Nine now. And they made the Expanse game recently, and it was really just a Deck Nine game. This had a lot more of the Telltale DNA, in the sense that the developers understand how to execute a game like this brilliantly. The Walking Dead, like you, affected me in the same way. It made me feel things that I didn't know games could make me feel, especially at the time that The Walking Dead came out. And again, Dispatch reminded me sort of why this genre is important to me this year. And Dispatch reminded me how to fall in love with a story. It simplified everything down to its bones and made the characters front and center. It chose very talented voice actors where they needed to, and put them where they needed to be in the story. We, as you might listen to our podcast on the subject, that took some less talented voice actors and put them where maybe they needed to be for the story, depending on who you ask. And sort of redefine what that genre can do as a whole. You go to play Life is Strange, and the cutscenes feel very Life is Strange. You look like you're watching an in-engine generated cutscene. Dispatch, you really just feel like you're watching a well-produced Netflix show. You could put it on par with Edge Runners, maybe not quite Arcane, but in that same caliber of show. And that's the cutscenes of Dispatch. And that's sort of revolutionary when it comes to the visual novel style genre, because usually the cutscenes are sort of a vessel to get you from one section of gameplay to the next, or one story beat to the next, where in this game, the cutscenes really feel like a treat after the gameplay. And in the gameplay, you get lots of story as well. It did something that I didn't know this genre had in it, and that's why I gave it a 10 out of 10. And in my opinion, it had the gameplay to back it up as well. It was a truly unique experience. I can't wait to see where the genre goes next, and I'm interested to see where this universe goes next as well. And Dispatch was my number 2. Dispatch was my number 1. That was my number 1 game of the year that came out in 2025.
Number 1.
So that brings us to, Ryan, your last game of 2025. Your number 1. The game that beat all games this year.
So I have to start out by saying 2 quick things. 1, I try and base my game of the year, for myself at least, off of what game I had the most fun playing for the year.
Yeah.
Also, I love destruction. I love the physics and smashing things, blowing stuff up. I love that interaction in video games.
Yep.
My game of the year,
I know where this is going,
is Ooh Banana. Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's so funny that this is my game of the year, because I did not think that this game would come I didn't even think this game would probably make my top 10 list. And sure enough, this is a fantastic. It wasn't quite a launch title. I believe it came out just after the Switch 2 launched. Like it was like a month or two after the console came out in 2025. And this game is just one of those games that makes you grin from ear to ear, and I just had a blast playing the entire time. It has physics and destruction, and you're constantly finding little dopamine rushes and little trinkets everywhere you go. There's clearly a lot of influence from the recent Zelda games, both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, as far as some of its design goes. It's an absolute blast. It's weird. It's super weird. It's a weird ass game. You've got all of these different transformations of Donkey Kong. So Donkey Kong can transform into all of these different characters. You unlock powers as you go throughout the game, and these characters have different strengths and weaknesses, and different kind of Metroidvania-like solutions to certain problems. And then you finally get to these little boss fights, and then you get to, on the fly, switch between all of these different Donkey Kong evolutions, morphs, animals, creatures, whatever you want to call it. And it's a blast. It's absolutely fun. And in a very Nintendo fashion, you've got all of these different environments that you end up going into, whether that's lava or ice or snow or desert or tropical, is very on the nose Nintendo. However, the biggest complaint that I have about our industry is that it is so much easier for developers and for publishers and for these companies to just create something that looks nice and then create the game. And oftentimes when they're done creating the game, it's a static environment, not very interactive, and there might be a great story or great music or whatever it is, but there's not enough canvas for you to paint on as a player. And I love games like this. Whether it's Mercenaries 2 back in the day, where you can blow up every last block
Love that game.
of Venezuela. Sorry for the timing. That's kind of weird given the recent politics and
Yeah,
stuff.
yikes. But hey, that's Mercs 2 is an amazing game.
Mercs 2, it's a great game. EA, please make a third. And even going back to like Half-Life with its little physics puzzles, and I'm sure the Red Faction has one of the games in the franchise where you can topple down structures in this very unique way. Crackdown 3, if anyone remembers, that game was supposed to have really cool destruction, never ended up having it. It was, of course, a very static environment, and the game was boring as hell.
Yeah.
This is a game for me, and nothing makes me happier than it's like wandering around in the desert and you finally find a little bit of water and you get to drink it. It's just so great. It's so awesome. I love it so much. The game is goofy as hell. It's not that difficult. The game is really not a great platformer game. They're like platforming. I guess it's supposed to be a platformer, kind of, sort of. I believe this is the developers of the Mario game, so Mario Odyssey. For any of those who enjoyed that one, that's I believe that's the team who created Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've never been a fan of Donkey Kong. I played Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, I think, when I was a kid at a friend's house, and it was very difficult, and I never got into it. Donkey Kong has never been on my radar, ever, for my entire gaming career. And this one came out, and I just had a fucking awesome time. It was the best. It was so much fun. I loved it. It was the game that I completed the fastest, and yeah, I don't know. I just can't speak more highly of it. It's certainly not for everyone, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I loved it. It's my game of the year.
So I have a couple questions for you. Number one, how many hours did you put into it?
I think I put like 18 hours into this.
Okay. Okay.
It's a relatively short experience.
Did you play more handheld or did you play more docked?
I played probably a 80-20 split docked to handheld. So I probably played handheld 20% of the time, I'd say.
And does it run 60?
It runs 60 the vast majority of the time. There are certain boss fights that certainly tank performance when those bosses just do too many, they throw too many particles on the screen. I would say that it's very similar to a FromSoft game or Night Rain, and more recently, where the boss just goes absolutely berserk. They throw a million particles on the screen and the hardware suffers. There are ways in which you can replicate some performance instability in a very small way. They very cleverly hide this performance dip and instability in a very artistic way, you could say. However, when it does come to some of the boss fights, and I'm mostly thinking of like probably 2 boss fights in the game, maybe a third, where there's definitely some genuine performance issues, where you can tell the developers went, we don't care. This is the game. We want to have fun with the destructible environment, and the performance is going to suffer because of it. It's a
Right.
little disheartening to see that this early in the Switch 2's lifespan. Although I will say, looking at how little or what little time third-party developers have had with the Switch 2 dev kits, I would imagine the first-party teams didn't have a whole lot more time than the third-party
Yeah, it
teams
might get
did.
more optimized as it goes.
And interestingly, once again, I know this sounds very familiar. This game was supposed to come out on Switch, and the developers could not figure out, of course, a way to make this function in any way, shape, or form on the Switch 1 hardware. And it's the reason why there was a huge gap in between game production for the Super Mario team. Super Mario Odyssey came out in 2017. They didn't release a game all the way until now, almost 10 years later, if I'm not mistaken. So this is definitely something that they were really trying to make work for the Switch 1. It didn't. It ended up getting pushed to the Switch 2, very much so like Breath of the Wild did from the Wii U to the Switch 1. This game ruled. I think it's a must play for the Switch 2. Even you don't have to finish it, but just the experience itself is well worth it. I know it's Donkey Kong. I know it's weird. You've got a little girl on your shoulder, like little Pauline, who like sings songs, and you're bashing shit and throwing stuff around. But this is just Nintendo at its absolute best when it comes to creativity. I would say we haven't seen this level of creativity from Nintendo since Breath of the Wild back in 2017.
Would you rate it above Super Mario Odyssey?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I'm one of the few people out there that would argue that Odyssey might be a little overrated. I don't think Odyssey is a 10 out of 10. I really don't. I know a lot of people swear by it and say that Super Mario Odyssey is a 10 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic game. It's an incredible platformer. It's not a 10 out of 10 for me, but I neither is Bonanza. Bonanza is my game of the year. It's not a 10 out of 10 game.
Very interesting. I can't wait to go play it. It's definitely going to be a game that I pick up in 2026. When, I'm not sure, but I'll absolutely give it a try. I know a lot of people rated it just as highly as you did. I love Destruction just as much as you, and I'm really in sort of a renewed era of my gaming experiences where I just want more and I want varied experiences, and Donkey Kong Bonanza seems like it's going to be one of those just really, really fun games to play. I can't wait.
Yeah, turn off your brain, have a good time with this one if you get around to it. If you don't, I don't blame you, because it's weird playing a game where you're a monkey. So
Gorilla.
Or where you're a donkey. Yes, gorilla is the correct animal.
So we did it. We got through our top 10 of games that came out this year. We are at let me see. Oh, okay, a modest 2 hours and 40 minutes of recording time. That's probably going to be edited down to sometime less than that as you're listening. But we're not done yet. Stay buckled in, folks, because I have some more games I want to talk about.
That's right.
Brian, you got some more in you?
Oh, yeah. I got some more in me.
All right. I played, I think, like 22, 23 games this year, and only exactly 10 of them came out this year. So half the games I played this year came out in 2025. Of course, as we're recording this, it's 2026, so I'm saying this year, but I'm referring to the year 2025. And I want to go through some honorable mentions. The number one honorable mention that I want to start with is, so your number one game of 2025 was Donkey Kong Bonanza. My number one game of 2025 was Dispatch. But those are just the games that we played that came out in 2025. There's also the games that we played that came out in previous years. You and I played a lot of games this year. You and I both played Silent Hill 2 Remake, which was a masterpiece, and you can go listen to our episode on that. A fantastic game. Would you put Silent Hill 2 Remake as your number one game that you played this year?
Oh, without a doubt.
Would you put it over
Absolutely.
Donkey Kong Bonanza?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I absolutely would. I absolutely would as well. That was a fantastic game. A generational game, you might say. But Ryan, my number two game that I played this year, probably tied with Dispatch. If we're talking about, you said something interesting when you were talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza. You were talking about, I put my number one game as the game that I had the most fun playing.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the Nintendo CEO's name?
Oh,
or former CEO?
It was Doug Bowser, who was Nintendo of America's head honcho.
Okay.
He
Okay.
recently stepped down, and somebody else is now running Nintendo of America. I don't know who like the mega overlord is of Nintendo, like worldwide.
I don't either, but I think it was Doug. Did you say Doug Bowser?
Yeah, Doug Bowser. How could
Is
you
his
forget
last
the
name
last
really
name?
Bowser?
Yes, yes.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that. I think it was Doug Bowser who said, if it's not fun, then what's the point? And I disagree with that sentiment a little bit. Not 100%, but I disagree with it in some ways. But you're right. There's something to be said about the amount of fun you have playing a game. And for me, maybe, actually, not maybe, definitely the most fun I had playing a game in 2025 was Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
I love this game. But I need to start with a little bit of a preamble here because I wrote an entire article in Magnetic about how I would never review this game because it was so broken that I disagreed with even the premise of giving it any attention. And I still agree with that. This is not a review of Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yes, yes, yes. I like where this is going.
This is simply a conversation with my best friend about how Jedi Survivor, while being inexcusably broken, is a lot of fun. It is a fun game to play. It is a good story. It's got an amazing John Williams soundtrack. It has an insane photo mode. In fact, some of my favorite screenshots I've ever taken in video games came from Jedi Survivor, mostly because the game is just beautiful. It's got a weirdly dark story, a story that's dark, like we're talking the last few seasons of the Clone Wars style dark.
Mm.
I love Cal Kestis as a protagonist. I know I already said it. I know I've said it a lot tonight, but I'm going to say it one more time. The music is fucking phenomenal. It gives me goosebumps. I just love so much about this game. And it's just fun to play. The exploration, the combat, the platforming. It's a platformer. You platform so much in this game, but it's not an annoying in an annoying way. It's in a fun, curious way. You're like, I wonder if I can get up there if I do this or that. Or and the irony is it is a Metroidvania style exploration game. So you have to kind of get new abilities and come back to other locations but it just works. It works. It's done well. It's not overdone. It's just it works really well. And the story is um it's on one hand it's really well done and it really explores the theme of Cal's struggle with the dark side and his maturity as a man. He's kind of still going from I would say definitively makes the transition from boy to man in this game. And on one hand, I want to say it's a little bit of a filler story because we're obviously are going to get a third Jedi game, and I'm really excited for that. But there were some elements that were kind of like this story was purely about Cal's development. There was no grand overarching themes of the Empire or, I mean, it's really the Empire and everything else is just a backdrop. This story is about Cal becoming a more mature human and not being a conventional Jedi, but becoming some hybrid Star Wars hero that he is. There's something I love so much about his story because he is so much an underdog. He's not Star Killer where he's pulling down Star Destroyers. He's not Luke who becomes the Master Luke that's the most powerful Jedi ever. He's not he's not Darth Vader. He's not Han Solo who somehow always comes out on top. He's just Cal. He's kind of mid even though he becomes very powerful, and I love engaging in arguments on Reddit about how powerful he actually is. He's just a kid who is caught up in this tragedy and has a tragic story of a life. And I kind of have a feeling, and this is not a spoiler because I'm purely guessing here, I have a feeling he's probably going to die in Jedi 3, which would just round out his tragedy of a life in a way that would I hope he has a happy ending, but man, I think he's probably going to die. And I love this is Star Wars almost at its peak for me. And I don't say that lightly. And it's ruined by the developers not optimizing their fucking engine by stuttering. I played this game on a 5090 and let me tell you, Ryan, it was barely what I would consider acceptable for playing. Again, this is not a review of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This is a love letter to a Star Wars story that I love so much that I will never give any more attention to than what I'm saying right now. Anyways, I
Oh,
had to go on a ramble for that game because,
I got all
God,
like
I love it.
I got warm and fuzzy inside.
Maybe I'll convince you to play it.
I, you know me, I deep down inside, I love Star Wars with a deep, deep rooted passion. And similar to ex-girlfriends in my life, I've been hurt. I've been hurt bad. And I don't know where I'm going with this. Scratch that. I'm definitely always willing to I'm always willing to give Star Wars, just Star Wars, another shot. Even when I don't have faith in the IP or in the franchise or in some of the previous entries, I'm always willing to give it a go. And with how highly you've talked about Survivors despite all of its issues, I know, especially after Claire Obscure this year, that even if you have to drag yourself through the mud of technological issues, whether or not those were specific to me or otherwise, this sounds like, again, I'm looking at it right now. Steam 68%.
For
Everyone's
Survivor.
like, yeah, for Survivor 68% on Steam. Everyone's like, this game's a 10 out of 10 with just a myriad of technological issues and shortcomings.
Yeah. If its performance was flawless, I would probably give this game a 10 out of 10. If anybody is listening right now and you want to go read my article about Jedi Survivor, please do. I think I make some points that I think that more video game journalists need to make. Because I was given a code. I could have gotten Jedi Survivor for free. And I booted it up and I just couldn't do it. I could not allow, because I played Jedi Survivor years after it came out when it was patched. It was in such a sorry state on launch. I don't know how Respawn allowed themselves to release such an unfinished product. And still, with a 5090, again, I have maybe pretty much, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this to give context to what this game is. I have maybe the most powerful system you can have right now in 2025, 2026. And there's some the main planet you spend a lot of time on, you get sub 60 FPS and terrible frame time spikes and stuttering. It is horrible. And that bogs down a game that is just, it is the best Star Wars content we've had especially in the video game realm in decades, and maybe even the best Star Wars content we've had outside the video game realm. It's just it's a tragedy is what it is. And the game does not deserve Game of the Year. It doesn't deserve reviews. It deserves to be boycotted from reviews, not from necessarily purchasing it. I'm not saying you wasted your money, but I had fun. I had fun. The most fun I've had gaming this year was playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and it would be right behind Silent Hill 2 Remake, because Silent Hill 2 Remake is, like I said, a generational masterpiece. I think it would be tied with Dispatch for my Game of the Year behind Silent Hill 2 Remake. I love it.
That's massive. That's
Yeah.
absolutely massive. I just checked. This one came out in 2023. Jedi Survivor did.
Yeah. So I've had 2 years of patches before I played it. Two years ish.
Yeah. Also, while we're here, Rip Vince Zampella. I don't know if he had any hands-on with Survivor particularly, but I'm pretty sure he launched Fallen Order, the game before this one. He passed away in a pretty tragic way. Kind of shook the industry a little bit just recently here. And if I'm not mistaken, he got the first game out the door for the second one to be a thing. So
yeah, R.I.P. Be careful out there driving, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it's everybody's got a bullet flying at their head. You never know when yours is going to hit you. Just enjoy every moment and try and be careful. Friends and family, as Keanu Reeves once said, I don't know what happens after you die, but I know that the people who love you will miss you. And that's all we can know for sure. So make sure you take care of your loved ones by taking care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ryan, do you have any games you played this year that you really... Oh, wait, you know what? Hold on.
Oh,
we got to talk about one more game before we move on. This game came out in late 2024.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game that you and I both played. I kind of want, maybe it doesn't justify a full episode, but I feel like it's It deserves more than just kind of a tacking on to the end of an already 3-hour recording. But we got to talk about Indiana Jones: The Great Circle.
I really liked this game way more than I thought I would.
I did too. I did too. Now, do you think we should talk about it now? Do you think we should just tack it on, or do you think we should talk about it at a different time? I'm not sure when we would.
Yeah, I'm not sure when either. I feel like now's the best time,
Okay.
given the feels. We don't have to like dive deep.
Yeah, let's just spend
Um,
10 minutes. Let's just spend 10 minutes on it. I just rambled for a decent amount of time about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and that had part of what carries Star Wars as a franchise, but also specifically Survivor and Fallen Order, is that John Williams style score
mm,
that
he's so
Respawn has
good.
absolutely nailed. John Williams obviously did not do the score for Fallen Order and Survivor, but the theme, the feeling is there with those games. It's perfect. I go back to those soundtracks all the time just to listen to them. And when you talk about Indiana Jones, The Great Circle, oh my God, is the John Williams theme, is the John Williams vibe alive? It just carries that game. It carries the story. It carries the vibe. It is perfect. And I love it so much.
Absolutely. While I certainly think that, shoot, I forget the actor's name of Mael, who won Actor of the Year at the Game
Yeah,
Awards, who completely deserved it. But holy shit, if
she
there's a
did a great
close
job.
second, if not maybe even somebody who if their game would have came out this year and not been stuck in the bad Game Awards cycle time of year, which is November, December, Troy Baker nails. I mean, nails Harrison Ford's Indiana Jones. Like,
Absolutely.
so much to the point where I'm like, this isn't AI. Like, this isn't an AI filter of Harrison Ford's voice just being projected on the game. He nailed it. And while
It's
he's,
it's crazy. He's so talented, and I don't even
yeah,
want him to win any more awards because of how talented he is. I mean, that dude
you're
is
too
just like he's
talented.
like
No more.
he's just like good looking. He can sing. He can play guitar. He's like one of the best voice actors of our generation. Like
He
he's
played
fine.
Joel. He
Yeah,
played Joel, one of the most well-known characters, one of the most beloved characters in all of gaming.
yeah. He's in Death Stranding. He was in the live action TV show of Last of Us. I mean, this he was in BioShock Infinite. This guy is in almost everything. He's so talented. And the Mael actress, and we don't even know her name, even though we saw her at the panel on PAX.
I
And I'm
know. I'm
sorry
sorry.
to whoever she is. In fact, really quickly, I'm just going to look her
Yeah,
up so
we,
that
we
we're not
gotta we
doing
gotta
her
look
an
her up
injustice.
just to give her
Um,
a shout out. We were at the panel during PAX. It was absolutely packed. It was one of the only panels at the show where if you didn't get there early, you weren't getting in.
yeah, there's like 400 people in that panel. It was crazy. Her name's Jennifer English. Jennifer English, you
Yes.
absolutely deserve the awards that you've received. You are very talented. I can't wait to see where your career goes. And I just had to get her name in there so that our listeners knew that we weren't just building Troy Baker up on this pedestal while forgetting the name of the actress who actually won the award this year. But, and that's, by the way, Jennifer, amazing name. Jennifer English, that's so strong. Keep going, girl.
Yeah.
And she's from what we saw at the panel, we got to see her in person. She's very charming. She's very down to earth. She's very witty and again, very talented. But Troy Baker, God damn it, he's so good. And how do you make Harrison Ford voice? I don't even know. He's just it's just this raw talent, and it's really interesting to watch. And you really forget that you're not listening to Harry. He does Harrison Ford better than Harrison Ford ever has. I
Yeah.
think it's incredible. And you know what else is? I should probably do another lookup because I'm not going to know the actress's name. But whoever plays the number two in, do you remember her name in Indiana
And
Jones: The Great
I
Circle?
I forget. I do forget. Do we need to look that one up too? She kills it as well. You're pretty much with her 3/4 of the game, maybe half the game.
Yeah, so the woman who you spend most of the time with, I think her name's, what is her name? Gina Lombardi, who's played by the actress Alessandra Mastronardi? Alessandra Mastronardi, who is, I think, an Italian actress. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Who does an incredible job as her number two. And I have to give a shout out because she plays a major role in a TV show that I believe is a masterpiece called Master of None with Aziz Ansari, and she plays his Italian love interest in
Wait,
that
that's her?
show. Yeah, that's her. That's the same
Oh, no
actress,
way.
and she absolutely kills it in that show. She absolutely kills it in this. I'm not sure what else she's in, but those two things that I've seen her in, she's basically flawless, and I can't wait to follow her career a little bit because she between those two performances, she's made me a believer in her work, and I want to look her up and see what else she's in and follow her. She does that perfect kind of like Bond girl, like strong, independent. Like she's perfect for Indiana Jones. I absolutely love it. The story is really good. The exploration is fantastic. I mean, being in these places, like you get to go to all these different exotic locations, one of them being Italy. And I mean, I've been to these places. Or not all of them. I've been to Italy, I guess is what I'm saying. I've seen the Sistine Chapel, and being there in the game in the 30s, punching Nazis, it's a dream, and it's beautiful. And going to Egypt, I mean, you feel like you're Indiana Jones, and it captures that nostalgia and that beauty and that wonder in a way that so many games try to. And this game just, I kind of wrote it off when I saw it at E3 or Game Awards or Summer Games Fest or wherever we first saw this game announced. I wrote it off as being just kind of another cash grab, another cinematic, oh, they're making another Star Wars game, or oh, they're making another Indiana Jones game. This game is worth a play. If you're like me and you thought that it was going to be a gimmick, it is not. It is fun and worth your time. So go check it out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I believe Machine Games is the developer on this one. They're
Mm.
they're most well known for the Wolfenstein franchise,
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
and they absolutely nailed the first Indiana entry. I was just like you going into this one. I was thinking, is this just okay, a new Indiana movie's coming out, so we're gonna create a game to go with it. We've seen that so many times in the past. It's just trying to ride off the hype of what used to be the bigger medium. But this time around, I'd argue the game is so much better than the latest Indiana movie that came out, and it's such a great immersive sim. And it's funny to play a game from Machine Games that's not you just shooting a million rounds a second, and
Yeah.
it's very on par because of course the Wolfenstein games are all about Nazis, and Indiana is here as well, so that much has not changed at all, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this game is beautiful, and it takes you to all these different locations, and the protagonists are absolutely killing it, and it's very campy, just like the movies are, and
Yeah.
goofy and lighthearted, and rarely super serious. But when it does have its serious moments, they hit because they are far and few in between, but they're wedged in there in just the right ways that do make you feel something. I love how, as a player character, you're kneecapped by being Indiana Jones. You have a whip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you have a gun. Oftentimes you're throwing bottles or have some sort of melee weapon that you're using. It is not, the game constantly punishes you for trying to be Rambo. You're not
Yeah.
Rambo in the jungle. You're Indiana in the jungle. And it's just great. It's awesome. A lot of the puzzles actually like make you think, which is great for an adventure game like this, or an immersive sim adventure game like this. You can really spend as much time as you'd like in these semi-open world areas that you go to. You can golden path things. You can spend a ton of time off the beaten path. You're seemingly rewarded quite often by going off the beaten path and doing these little side quests. And I would argue, for the first time in a long time, I clearly had no idea what the difference was between mainline and side content, because that's how high quality the side content is.
Yes.
There'd be
Absolutely.
times where I'd be completely off the beaten path. I thought I was on the path, and lo and behold, I'm like, oh, I just spent like the last like 2 hours dealing with water pumps and this excavation dig in the pyramids that had absolutely nothing to do with the main story, but it just felt like this was the main content and this is what you're supposed to be experiencing. And then lo and behold, it's not. And
Yeah.
that was great, and I love that. I think that the developers that are able to create content that is so good that you don't even know what's supposed to be the mandatory versus the optional. It's like, damn, you guys, yeah, hats off to you.
Yeah. And if you like checking boxes off lists, then you can do that with a lot of like collectibles and going back and getting all these things and solving these puzzles. And I didn't do a lot of that because I kind of felt the game overstaying its welcome a little bit towards the end, only because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so much you can
The
do
boat,
in that game.
the boat sequence at the
Oh
end.
my God. Yeah. Driving that goddamn boat around and
It
yeah. And it
was the
did a
only
good
part
job.
that I had a huge issue with was that
Me
boat
too.
sequence. Oh,
Me too. But that's because it came at the end. I think if it would have came in the beginning, I would have been more into it.
yeah. And again, not trying to brag, but even with 5090s, that last jungle sequence just brings the 5090 down to its knees
Yeah.
for
And
whatever
it's
reason.
a beautiful game. It's a
It
beautiful game.
is. It is.
The developers do a good job of giving people who want to be immersed in that universe for 100 hours. They can probably do that. I had about 30 hours into it, and I was
Yeah.
plenty done with it by the time I got to the main credits. But you know what? I'm very much looking forward to the next installment. And just like Star Wars, this is a game that takes a movie franchise and gives you content that you didn't know you wanted, but you absolutely do after you played it.
Mhm.
It's fantastic. I absolutely love it, and it's just fun. It's whimsical. It's campy. It's a great experience. Go play it. It's worth it. Troy Baker, goddamn you, you're really good.
Yeah.
Alessandra Mastronardi, I have a crush on you, and you're talented. Ryan, is there any more games you want to shout out? I have one more game I really want to shout out before we end tonight, before we end the recording. What else do you need to shout out though before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at my list of games that I've played to see if I'm missing something. I think I'm about tapped out. Yeah, I think I'm current.
I played a lot more games this year than we've talked about. There's some that I'm holding off because I think we're going to record about them. There's some that just have already mentioned briefly. There's some that are replays. I want to mention. Do I want to mention two? I'm going to mention just one, and that's a game that I played. The first game I played in 2025, about a year ago today, is A Thousand Times Resist. You and I were just having a conversation about this game the other night,
Mhm.
and this is a game that has a very high rating on Steam. It's it's a weird sci-fi exploration into trauma and COVID-19 somehow, and feeling like you don't belong in a culture you're not familiar with. And it grapples with existentialism and beauty and friendship and loss and betrayal. It's a game that it made me feel things emotionally at the beginning of this year that I needed to feel. And I love it. The gameplay is weird and repetitive, and the puzzles are mid, and most of the story comes through optional dialogue with characters that you have to kind of run around a really confusing map to find, and sometimes you're randomly find yourself talking to a bird, and then there's also, I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's things that happen that are unexpected. The story goes in directions you didn't expect, and it is one of those games that I think everybody should play at least once. So go check out A Thousand Times Resist. By the way, some people, I'm not sure if it's called 1000x Resist. I refuse to think that's the way that it's pronounced. I think that I'm just going to say 1000 times resist. So I'm sorry, developers, if you want it to be 1000x resist. I think that's dumb. I'm just going to say 1000 times resist. And I think it's kind of prevalent to the world we're living in and the world we're headed towards. And I love it. Go check it out.
What was the release date of Thousand Times? Is that a 2025 game?
I believe
2024 game?
I believe that was a 2024 game that I played in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know anything except for what you just said about this game. All I know is that the near community has been pointing at this one for a bit, and I absolutely have it on my backlog, and I can't wait to give this one a shot.
I encourage you to, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit more once you do on the podcast. We'll see.
Heck yeah.
But we are, as I see in my recording, 3 hours and just over 15 minutes. That's gonna be a doozy of editing for me. So I say we cut it here. We both have to work tomorrow, and it's getting late. 2025. You were a terrible year for me personally. You were an amazing year for my gaming career, and I'm glad you're over. I'm happy you were here. 2026, here we come. It's going to be a good year for Digital C. It's going to be a good year for us. Let's do it.
Yeah. We have a lot of games to look forward to in 2026. And can't wait to see what's in store.
Whoosh.
All
All right, I'm going to stop
right,
recording.
stop it. Yeah. Number 3, my lord. I was holding up 2
Wow.
fingers for anyone who's wondering. Do I have time to pee again?
Yeah, go.
Yes.
But hurry.
I got some on my leg.
Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready.
I feel like I'm standing on a stage in front of everybody, except it's just me in my room here by myself.
Do you want me to turn my headphones off?
I mean, if you would just look away, like I feel like you're just staring at me, even though I can't see your face.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm looking at
thank
my
you.
ceiling.